Here it is. Oh,
Okay.
I do really like these boxes also. Like the design of these.
You talking about the clamshell ones?
Yeah, I think like this might have been the starter, and then all of the other Zappa ones kind of have this nice bookshelf style. I really like that. Oh, the Roxy Performances might
The
be the first
Roxy
one.
Performances, that was the first one.
Yep.
Which I like. And then we also, we have 3 viewers already. I'm going to
Hey,
just go ahead and
hello.
say 4. Hello, folks.
Hope everybody's
What
having a nice
are
Memorial
we
Day if
listening
you're in the
to?
States.
I'll put that up. I'm so cool. I highlighted my own comment.
Look at you go.
Yeah, the clamshell. I really like those. And let me show you something real quick.
Yeah. This is the clamshell what we're talking about here.
Yeah, this
Zappa
release
Mothers.
that I worked on did that same design.
Yeah. It's nice. It looks like a tape box.
Yeah, exactly. And it's kind of
Still
a
have to get
similar.
that.
This is Soft Machine Hova Code in 1971. And I spent the entirety of my March of, I want to say 23, working on this. I spent a whole month working on this, and it involved contacting the Norwegian Sound Archives in Norway and getting the best transfers of the original reels. This is 4 shows.
That's awesome.
It's like a set 1, set 2 over 2 nights. And when we were listening, I prepared a master of it for Steve, who, Steve Feigenbaum owns Cuneiform Records. And he says, Ian, this sounds terrific. If only you could just go back in time and ask Elton Dean to turn up his amp a little bit because he's being drowned out by Mike Ratlich's keyboards.
Yeah.
And so at that time, demixing was just kind of starting to become a thing. Like Giles Martin had done that with the Beatles and stuff. And I didn't yet have any of those AI tools. And so Douglas Moon, who does the video work for Cuneiform, like on the Soft Machine 1970 box set and the Muffins box set, was able to extract stems through spectral analysis and the magic wizardry that contained within. And I was able to learn how to demix for the first time. And as I've explained, like demixing is a really good way of explaining the process because it's not really about adding frequencies. It's about revealing frequencies. You take away. So if you want more saxophone, if the keyboards are covering up the saxophone, you pull back the keyboard frequencies and reveal the saxophone. But yeah, this was a lot of hard work. I scrubbed through, I think, every single second of these 4 shows.
Wow, I really need to buy that one still. I will get there. Yeah, it's also like that's a period of Soft Machine I really like. Also, like the 3, 4, 5 era is like that's the band is hot.
Oh yeah, yeah. Steve has a box set, like one of those original albums box sets that's got I think 3, 4, 5, and 6, and it's like $30 for like 5 albums or something like that. And I gotta get on that because
that's a good old deal.
Yes, it is, because I have Third, and next week I'm probably going to be talking about Third.
Yeah, I need to spin that again. I have Third on vinyl, which I've had for a long time. I have the Ford CD that I've had forever. Then I have a 5 CD I've had for a while too, but it's a Japanese CD. And a lot of the like Japanese prog CDs sound like stupendous.
Did you get that on your trip?
Example. No, I've had that since high school. I found it used. I had a really good back in the day. I had a used CD store near my old house, and that place used to have some gems. Like I found like Art Zoid in there and like all sorts of random stuff. It was the best, honestly.
Was that Black Gold? Was that the one that we went to, or
no? That was in the city. But I did find Third at Black Gold many moons ago.
Well, while we're waiting for some folks to join, I have one more show and tell item. So, Mike, you work for a second.
Sure. Yeah, so we were talking about. I listened to a lot of this box set. If anybody has this, the past couple weeks, I have not heard this music in so long, but it was so much fun to listen to this. This is a very underrated era of Frank. It's not my favorite band that he's ever put together, but they are definitely a lot of fun to listen to. And the first disc has some studio gems that are a must listen if you're a Frank
Yep.
fan.
Like the
For sure.
original studio version of Envelopes.
Yeah, Envelopes is nuts. Ainsley Dunbar is playing some crazy stuff, and there's also like a couple unreleased tunes like Red Tubular Lighter and Giraffe, which has been like a bootlegger's dream is to have Giraffe, and we have the studio recording of that. What do you got for me?
So you were talking about having third on vinyl,
Oh,
and back when I was collecting vinyl, that was one of my holy grails because I love that inside cover of like Robert Wyatt and the boys just kind of hanging out in a hotel room somewhere.
yeah.
It's got tons of vibe, and I always wanted that gatefold, and I never got it. I never was able to get a hold of a copy of that. But what I did get to do was I mastered and restored this performance from 1970. And the reason why this even ties into what you were talking about is because as an extra, I also worked on a VPRO recording.
Yeah, it's the Picnic VPRO concert from
Yes.
1870, which was something that, if I'm correct, was in like a bootlegger thing, a pretty common bootleg, but now was in the vault.
Right.
And unfortunately, a lot of the tapes from this band, this was a year before Frank started bringing multi-track around. So they're like 2 or 4 track recordings, and some of them have a very guerrilla quality to them, but some of them do sound good. It's kind of, hit or miss. I think that particular VPRO one might be the best sounding one in this set. There are some recordings on disc 4 that sound amazing, and those are the ones on FC's tape recorder. Like if you remember the Playground Psychotics album, there's all of those little random audio snippets and chats that's recorded using his portable thing. He would record literally everything, and a lot of those nuggets are on disc 4 of this, and some of it is like just guitar solos. It's the band chatting in an airport. It's all of the comedy routines, which are fairly hit or miss. But all of the music that's on there is terrific. There's a couple of guitar solos that are stupendous, and anytime they play King Kong is like, forget it. Like that is smoking stuff. Like that's a real highlight. Like this band and the 1971 bands, King Kong is like the best thing.
Oh yeah. Now what I do have is, and I guess I can grab it for visual aid. I don't know if you have this one or not, but oops, I do have the follow.
I do have that. Yeah.
Which is the Fillmore concerts, but it's also got what do they call it? Like
it's got 2 extras too. It has I listened to that the first extra show. It's the one that's like a couple days before the Fillmore shows in Pennsylvania, and then there's the
Harrisburg.
That's
Scranton
the one, Harrisburg. Yeah,
Yeah,
I heard that 2 weeks ago, and then it also has the last concert that the Flo and Eddie band played.
Right. Which, if you listen, you were talking about King Kong. Frank is developing the Big Swifty, like some of Big Swifty in the middle of the King Kong solo, which is just incredible to hear.
It's so nuts. Yeah. Like, if Frank didn't have an accident, I have a feeling he would have still gone the jazz route.
I think so too. I think he was heading there no matter what. But we're I think we do have some viewers. Big Eyed Bean Vision from Big Eyed Beans from Venus. Don't let anything get in between us. He says hello. Hello there.
Hello.
Glad to join us. We're I think we're talking to about 6 folks at the moment. I don't know if people are doing stuff for Memorial Day or what's going on, or maybe some people will join in later. But we can talk a little bit about what we've been listening to this week. I do want to. Salim Adam says hello there from dear old Blighty.
Hello.
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for stopping by.
I guess the big news this week is the announcement of the Still Living in the Past box set from Jethro Tull. Are you folks going to order that? Is that something you guys are into?
What do you
I
think of
know I
that?
am. That's the release of the full Carnegie Hall 1970 show.
That might be the big draw for me.
Mm-hmm.
We only get a single side. I have the only Living in the Past that I'm familiar with is I have a record of it, and side 3 is Carnegie Hall. It's
Right.
great.
Right.
That
Yeah.
album is awesome. I really like
Yeah.
Living in the Past. That's a favorite Jethro Tull of mine
Yeah. I
among
was
the
kind of
many.
surprised. I think it's a favorite of a lot of people's.
Yeah, something about it. I don't know. It has like a real charm to it. Like it's well sequenced and there's a lot of heart there. Should
Big
be a
Eyed
good time.
Bean Vision says, looking forward to the tall. So are we. Do you think you'll pick that one up, Mike?
I'm not sure. When is it coming out?
July 11th. And if you folks are interested in getting your stateside, check out Elusive Disc. You can get the tall disc this weekend on Memorial Day sale for like 15% off. So
Oh, that's
that
really good.
that wiped out my tax, and it was already listed at $60, and it's shipped for free. So I think I paid like $54 for it.
That's
Um,
good.
which for
That's
6
really
discs is
good.
amazing. I think that's an
Yeah,
amazing
that's really
price.
good. Yeah, I might get it. I'm gonna wait a little bit to do it because the influx of media has been enormous
Yes,
lately. There's been a
that's
lot
a
of good
problem
releases,
for
and
me.
they announced another release came out this week that I bought 2 days ago. It's the new Koenji Hyake
Oh, right.
album, which it's alive at Club Goodman in Tokyo. God, I saw Koen. If you people don't know, Koenji Hyake is one of my favorite bands, bar none. I first saw them at Nearfest 2008, and that totally knocked my socks off, and I became a lifelong fan ever since. This particular live album was recorded in 2021 during like peak COVID. There was just them in an empty club, and they filmed a large set. It's the current band. I think there's 7
Mm,
folks in the band, and they recorded a set of like a career survey. So there's like stuff from the new album. There's stuff from at least one song from every album, which is right up my alley. I love that band.
yeah.
It's going to be amazing. It's if you've never heard that band, it's like Magma, kind of, but kind of the energy is kicked up like
It's like
10,000 times more.
it's like Magma mixed with Ruins
Yeah, it's exactly that. It's the
almost.
same drummer too. Yoshida Tatsuya is the drummer.
So we just got 10
Really good.
viewers. I'm going to talk about something that I think a lot of people are interested in, even though it's not a new release. I was listening to Tales from Topographic Oceans this week. And this is, what is this? The 5th Yes album?
Let's
Yes
count.
album is number 3.
Yes, Time of the Word, the Yes album, Fragile, Close to the Edge. Yeah, it's 6, I think.
It's number 6. Okay. This is the 6th Yes album, and it came out in an interesting time in music history because, or at least popular music history, because I feel like, between the years of like 1967 and like maybe 1974 were maybe the really great years for pop music, because it's like the music industry was relatively healthy at the time, and record labels were willing to take chances on just about anything. And at that time, like, if a band like Yes had a stream of hits like Roundabout, I've Seen All Good People, there was, I'm guessing, pressure to just keep pushing that sort of thing out. And, here John Anderson and Steve Howe concoct this whole multi-part suite that's based off of the autobiography of a yogi. And it's like this whole spiritual thing. And I've been really getting into this because it was one of the first, if not the first, Yes album I ever heard.
Oh
And
wow.
I found it so impenetrable at the time that I first listened to it. And it kind of put me off Yes for a long time. But it's interesting how slowly through these issues of the super deluxe editions of like Fragile and Close to the Edge and the Yes album, I've gradually become more and more of a Yes appreciator. And so now I come to this album as a fan, and it's a whole new perspective. So my thoughts are, it could have maybe been a single disc, but in the CD era, I think that there's more than enough music here there's too much music here, I think, to fit a single 45-minute album that's worthwhile. There's really only just a few parts here and there that I think, gosh, this goes on a little bit too long. Like the first 10 minutes of side 2 is just like, they're going for another repeat, and then some of the most astonishing Yes music I've ever heard kicks in with that acoustic stuff that Steve Howe's doing.
Oh yeah,
And
that section's amazing.
yeah, there's some really, kind of this is not engaging me stuff on it, but then there's some other stuff on it that's just breathtaking, and it's like among some of my favorite Yes music. And I found that it's best to kind of approach this album almost like an ambient album. Like it's an ambient Yes album. And it's like if you just kind of take a few deep breaths and clear your head and sit down and just kind of let it wash over you. It is a magical experience, and it's totally reality distorting. Like this takes you out of whatever reality you exist in. And, I don't know what it's about, but I definitely hear the whole peace and love thing going throughout it. Like, let's not burn the forests. Let's not start these useless wars for money and cash and all this thing. But that being said, I do feel like John Anderson and Steve Howe are definitely the front men on this album, and everybody else is kind of in the background. Poor Rick Wakeman doesn't do much.
Yeah, he's like the ambient quality for sure. Like there's like nice keyboard textures around, and maybe
Yeah,
it's part of why he left for a little while. I don't know.
There's that, and I think also he was being published by his record he was being pressured by the record company to be a solo artist. They were like, stop playing around with this.
Yeah,
So there's politics going on too that keep Rick Wakeman kind of out of the picture here. And he, of course, famously he went over and recorded parts of Sabbath Bloody Sabbath
right.
in the same studio while this was going on, which is probably my favorite Black Sabbath album.
That's a great one.
But this, we'll talk about Topographic a little bit more. This is the 5.1 mix that came out in, I want to say 2014, 2013. And this is out of print, and it's very hard to get a hold of. I bought this because YouTuber who goes by Life and Surround, who's actually one of my biggest influences. Like I watched him before I even considered making my own YouTube channel. He sold this to me, and he didn't price gouge me, so I appreciate that. So thank you, Life and Surround, for making this happen. It is a wonderful surround mix. There have been some complaints on the internet and stuff that parts of the track Ritual are out of sync. And to be honest with you, I am not that familiar with this album, but I compared it to the flat transfer that's included, and I don't hear anything that's out of sync. So
Oh, interesting.
maybe that's like something that affects only the stereo mixes and not the surround mixes. But I find that the surround mixes are revealing, to borrow a phrase from the album, revealing a lot of really the special qualities of this record. And it's also their best album cover, I think.
It's definitely one of them. That album cover, like, it fits the tone of the music perfectly.
It does.
It's another like ace Roger Dean one. My favorite is this one. Well, this is Nearfest, but the one this is influenced by, the Fragile, is my favorite Yes cover. But this is a close second. Oh yeah, the design is great on there.
Yeah.
I still haven't heard the Wilson mix of that. I only have one copy of that album, and that's the double CDs that came out in the aughts, like the 2000s. In high school I really liked that album, but I kind of have a mixed relationship with Topographic Oceans. Like half of it is amazing Yes music, and half of it I find pretty either just kind of boring, or it goes on too long, or it's kind of a mess. Like it's a flawed album for me. Like I think it could use some trimming.
Sure. Yeah.
But I think the second half of, like you said, side 2, the Ritual, Remembering, Hide the Memory, and the whole thing of Ritual is among the best Yes music, period.
Oh yeah.
Like there's pure elation, and it's the second half of side 2 is it's unbelievable. And Ritual is awesome, and that really comes out live too. Like on the live album Yes Shows, there's a really awesome version of Ritual on there. Yeah, I like the album. I also haven't heard it in so long. That's
Yeah.
like one of the Yes albums I've like have not heard. It's got to be over 10 years for me at least.
Wow.
It's time for
Wow.
a revisit.
I think so. Yeah, I like, especially like post pandemic, I've reevaluated a lot of those classic progressive rock albums, and I think that I will answer. Yeah, I'll go ahead. I'll go ahead and answer Salim's. Am I pronouncing that correctly, Salim? What is your surround sound setup? Is it Atmos? If so, it must have been difficult installing speakers in the ceiling. Yes, it is an Atmos setup. It is a, see, if you watch my video, when I showed my setup, I described it as a 7.1. And that was actually due to my own ignorance because it says it's a 7.1 receiver, but my actual setup is what's called 5.1.2. And that is essentially a 5.1 setup. So left and right in the front, back speakers left and right, as you can see, center channel subwoofer, hence the 0.1, and the 2 height speakers. Now, my height speakers are not installed in the ceiling. My family bought a house that's from the 50s. So it's, not something I want to drill holes into and try to mount speakers. So I just did up firing. It's not a perfect solution, but I did kind of refrain from putting in any kind of sound absorbent material around it. So it does have a lot of natural room ambience to bounce off the ceilings. And I gave the height speakers a little bit of dB boost. But yeah, to answer your question, it's 5.1.2. So, I basically, I have an Atmos system minus the side speakers. Jocko, I'm seeing all good people.
Jocko!
You must have your progressive lenses on.
Yeah, I switched to those before we started.
Mike, your headset is like crackling. Do you need to put batteries in that thing, or what's?
It's crackling?
Yeah.
I don't think so. Can you hear me okay now?
Yeah, it sounds okay now. I didn't know if maybe that was a connection issue, but
Oh, that's weird.
Hello to Jocko.
Yeah.
I can't remember what I was talking about when I went on the tangent about my surround sound Atmos setup. About albums. The one point I wanted to make before we move on from Tales from Topographic Oceans is that I think that this is often lumped into a category with 2 of my other favorite albums, and that's A Passion Play and Lamb Lies Down on Broadway, because, all of these kind of came out within like 2 years of each other. This one and Passion Play were 73. Of course, The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway was 74. And they're kind of all known as the albums where prog took a step too far for a lot of like the mainstream audiences. But I think what's interesting is that with 40 years in between then and now, I think they've been pretty much reevaluated as essential parts of the catalog. And, I think that might be a subject for a video at some point. How do these albums get rehabilitated through time?
That's a good question. Yeah, staying power, like, the fact that we're still talking about them, and we're also the fact that we're talking about them as people who are not alive, 50 years ago, is a testament to the power of the music, right?
Yes.
And how relevant it still is. Whether some people love it or hate it is, I guess, it's opinion, right? But
yeah,
it seems like more people tend to love them. And, The Lamb, for me, is a quintessential Genesis album. And I think it is now for a lot of people, but it certainly wasn't when it came out. It was very divisive, as far as I understand.
Yeah, exactly. And I just think that, at the time, maybe it was a lot for people to take in, but 40 years we've all been listening to these. Well, I haven't been listening to 40 years, but just as a culture, collectively, we've been listening to them, and we understand their charms, and we also understand how special they are, because people don't really make records like this. At least they're not. They do, but they're not number one albums. They're not pop albums. So yeah, it's a really special time, I think, and I think maybe a lot of it is rose-colored glasses towards the past, because I think you'll find that if you look at a lot of what was going on back then, 90% of it didn't last. It's really just the small percentage of albums that keep being reevaluated, because great art, I think, is of the moment, and that's any kind of art. You could engage with it at any point in time, and it still speaks to the moment. And I think Topographic Oceans has things to say that are relevant to right now, sadly. But there are moments of this album that I find, touching on a spiritual level. So anyhow,
yeah.
I wanted to talk about a new release for some people that you may not have heard of. And this is by a band that Mike and I love called Jack of the
I have
Clock.
it too.
And they're originally from Oakland, California. Now they're working out of Vermont. And it's essentially the brainchild of composer Damon Waitkus, who plays acoustic guitar. He sings, and he's got some other like hammered dulcimer and some Japanese instruments that he's fond of playing. But this is a rather interesting album, and the reason why I bring it up is because Damon's got a broad spectrum of influences in progressive rock and in like just modern composition, classical music. Bluegrass is a thing, like kind of like country bluegrass is American music, but he also loves prog. And he was taught by Fred Frith, Henry Cowell's guitar player, and one of the composers, taught him composition. But Damon's major influences are Jethro Tull and Yes, at least in the progressive sphere. So a lot of times you'll hear him play something that's kind of country influenced, but it sounds a lot like Steve Howe, or he'll do a song that's kind of like of the observational nature, sort of in the style of an Ian Anderson or, the Kinks, where it's like a character, sort of like, how Aqualung describes a character. And I feel like a lot of Damon's songs are like that. But what makes this album stand out? It's a new one, but it's not new because a lot of these recordings date back to 2003. And Damon recovered the DAT tapes and recorded new vocals on it, new lyrics, got the current members of Jack of the Clock to kind of fill it all out. And as a result, I think that this one, more than the last couple, is definitely based around those vignettes, those painting a picture. And they're much shorter songs because oftentimes he can go for 9, 10, 14, 15, 16 minutes. But there's something bite-sized about these little pieces that I think makes them very accessible. So if you folks are looking for something new that's kind of in the vein of the two things we've talked about so far, the Tull and the Yes, but you don't mind a little bit of Americana mixed in there, I do highly recommend this. This is called Portraits. I've seen them twice now, and they've been great both times. I definitely recommend, if you're looking for something new, check this out. My comments, copy signed by Damon.
So is mine. It's, this is a great album, I think. It's really unique, like Ian said, for a lot of reasons. The short, not only the song's short, the album itself is kind of short, which is a really nice and digestible album.
It's like 55 minutes.
Yeah, totally. But it's, that doesn't mean it's not as good. It's definitely like, it's a really nice treat, this album. Like a lot of the songs are great. I think some of the most interesting Damon lyrics in a while are on here. This album slaps. It's great. It's a lot of fun to listen to. It's really diverse. Also, some of it even sounds to me like a singer-songwriter record, which is a good thing. Also, it's just very different. There really isn't a lot of dulcimer either. So if that's not really your jam, then this is definitely a Jack of the Clock album for you, for sure.
But but the bassoon is back.
The bassoon is back. Yeah, which is
back on the last couple. Kate McLaughlin. Yeah, I met her and I got a chance to chat with her the last time I saw Jack of the Clock, and they're lovely folks.
They are. They're great.
She was like wearing a homemade dress and stuff. Like it was just very, very earthy. Somebody sent me $2 and asked me what my favorite Milli Vanilli album is.
Manny told Hattie. I think she saw.
Milli Vanilli. I think I prefer chocolate. Anyway, that Jack is awesome. Have you heard "The Heart Is in the Body" by Lost Crowns?
I haven't
No,
heard
but
that yet.
I've heard other Lost Crowns,
Me
right?
too.
Isn't that
Yeah.
somebody from like Stars in
Heart.
Battle Dress or something?
Yeah, it's like in the cardiac sphere. I'm forgetting who the lead composer is. It's one of the Larcombe brothers who is Stars in Battle Dress.
Right.
Yeah, I have their first album. It's very good. It's something I haven't heard in a long time now. But we have to hear. I think "The Heart Is the Body" is a new. If I'm correct, is a new one.
That's the new one. Yeah.
Yeah. We got to check that one out.
One thing I want to mention, and maybe we'll talk about some Zappa or some Chicago, maybe some
Yeah.
XTC. Maybe we could talk about some
Yeah,
XTC.
totally. I have some new stuff that is more in the metal sphere too, if people are interested in that also. Some of it is not as new, but it's new for me, and I've been flipping out over it.
and I have an important jazz recording. If any of you folks are into jazz,
yeah,
I have an important jazz
I
recording to
am.
talk about. But the only thing I want to mention is that the track "Nature Abhors a Vacuum," with the sampling of the vacuum sound in a musical way, kept making me think of Captain Beefheart. You know, this world needs a good $2 room and a good $2 broom.
Yeah. Yeah, it's awesome.
Jocko says, "Ian, you know it's true." That's very funny. All right. Well, I think we have, because I do have some Zappa stuff here.
Yeah, I did touch on the Mother's 1970 a little bit too, which is fun.
I need to get that. I actually we'll make a quick side swipe here because I know there's a lot of Zappa fans. This is something that I've been revisiting this week, is Lumpy Money. And
I love it too.
You know, I got a couple years ago when I started my business, I sold off a lot of my music, and I kind of went through this period where I thought, well, I only need to own the Zappa music that Zappa produced, you know, that during his lifetime, which is kind of short-sighted because so much of what has come out after adds so much depth and context to the main catalog. And I think that that's a perfect way to describe this collection, which is, it's sort of like, let's take all the pieces that constructed the Lumpy Gravy and to some extent the We're In It for the Money album and put them together and assemble in a package. So you have like the original version, the Capitol Records version of Lumpy Gravy, that was all orchestral. And you have some backing tracks. You have the original mono mix of We're In It for the Money, which sounds terrific, by the way.
I love that. That's, for me, the definitive version of that album. It's shocking how good that sounds for like a mono recording from 1967. That's like shockingly amazing.
Yeah, it sounds so good, and like it's more dynamic, I feel. And
yeah, you really get dynamics on that.
And there's like more depth to like the arrangements. Like I was hearing piano parts and stuff I wasn't used to hearing. I also really enjoy the 25-minute piece on disc 3. That's How Did That Get In Here, which has some. It's almost like a prelude to the Hot Rats era.
Yeah, it's so interesting.
So much interesting stuff here, and I'm still discovering it. Disc 2 is kind of the as I called it, the penalty disc, because these are the mid 80s mixes with the re-recorded drums and bass. It's not my thing, but on the other hand, I do appreciate having those versions in my collection because I guess I don't know if they were Zappa's preferred, but they are certainly his work. I always suspected that some of that was not in the best of faith, because I always suspected that some of that replacement had to do with the lawsuits that were going on with the original Mothers of Invention. So it's not my favorite way to enjoy the album, but like our friend Gavin from Bent Knee loves those versions. So, I mean, some people do have an emotional attachment, which I understand.
Yeah, I like the one for Ruben and the Jets. I think that one actually is awesome and enhances the music. I'm not so keen on these two, but that's fine. You know, Zappa was doing what Zappa does, and you know, he wanted to do that, so he did it.
Yeah.
You know, we have it if we like it or not. It's here. And I appreciate it's here too.
Rocco's talking about How Did That Get In Here. there's that bit in the middle of that long piece that sounds like the Grand Wazoo. I said Hot Rats, but yeah, it's more like the Grand Wazoo.
Grand
It's
Wazoo,
kind of
yeah.
like a shuffle jam. And yeah, that's all like conceptual continuity stuff for me, musically. So like these, Frank always used to say that if you took the first handful of Mother's albums, you could just re-edit them in any way,
Yeah.
and they would still work. And I don't think they would necessarily work as well as the way that he decided upon. But he's right. There's thematic material, like "Oh No" appears on Lumpy Gravy, and there's like little bits of like orchestral music on this set where you'll hear like incidental music that appeared in Lumpy Gravy, but just a few seconds before that, you'll hear incidental music that appeared on Whirling for the Money, and it's from the same like original source tape, which is just mind-boggling. That that level of, I guess, sophistication and editing prowess.
Yeah, it's like he like always was thinking about everything being connected. It's almost like the albums are not separate in a weird way. Like Frank just released music that was always part of itself.
Right.
It's fascinating.
It's the big note.
Yeah, it's the big note. And there's like going back to this set again, like there's conceptual continuity in here too, because Envelopes makes a large performance on here in the first disc, which is amazing to me that in 1970 Frank recorded Envelopes and it didn't appear live until like 77 and then on recording until 1982 or 81 with Ship Arriving Too Late
Ship
to Save a
Arriving Too
Drowning
Late.
Witch. Yeah. That's amazing to me. And there's like little melody licks here and there that are like, oh, wait a minute, that's a piece that comes later. Or like, here's part of, a hand signal that was used in the 73, 74 bands. Like that stuff is amazing to me.
Yeah, if you read in Cheaper Than Cheap, the new issue, which I have over there, I didn't bring it to show.
I have it
But,
over
oh,
here.
cool,
Yeah.
cool, cool.
Ta-da. Love this, by the way.
Yeah, that's so good.
This is so much fun. Yeah.
That set, I haven't been super into Frank Zappa these past few years, but that set was just like,
I mean, look at this.
And it's like I want to hear it all again. There was a period in my
Yeah.
life I've said where I listened to nothing but Frank Zappa for like 2 years. And after hearing this set and seeing this video, now I understand why. And I'm like, you know what? I think I'm ready to do that again.
Yeah.
I'm ready to go back and do the deep dive. But Ruth talks about how, there's that one track on there. I can't remember. It might be called Get Down Simmons or one of those tracks where Frank is doing the hand signals. And Ruth says that some of those hand signals originated back at the Garrick Theater in '67. So yeah, those hand signal techniques did, are you could trace those way back to the beginning.
Yeah, it's amazing. And he could, like Ruth said too, he continued them. Like the 78, 79 band had the Saddlebags cue, which is it's on Joe's Garage in the outro to On the Bus. It's like it's a hand signal called Saddlebags. It's so cool. He never stopped doing that stuff.
No, that instant composition like that.
Yeah.
Extended from his guitar solos to, the treating the band like an orchestra. And, he was even doing it on the Yellow Shark stuff.
Yeah.
I think there's a piece on the Yellow Shark set, but
genius.
Here's another one. I said I've been going crazy.
Yeah.
But this is a collection that Zappa Records put out a couple years ago. And I was talking about a little bit about this last week. But the first two discs are Edinburgh, PA, and this is the Mother's 10th anniversary show. And the first disc is like Cosmic Debris, Pygmy Twilight, Cheapness, Inca Roads. It's a lot of stuff that you're used to hearing from this band. But then second disc, you get an outstanding version of Dupree's Paradise.
Yeah, it's
which
killer.
is one of the features of this band because every performance of it is different. But you get, a solid hour of early Mother's material played in 74 band arrangements. Like you don't get to hear Hungry Freak's Daddy that much, for instance.
No, this is like why that band is so special too, is because they were the celebration of the mothers. So they played all the old stuff for like every night for however long the tour was, like a month or 2 months. It's awesome. The
Yeah, and
arrangements are killer too.
I want to say Don Preston was back
Yep.
in the band here
Don Preston's in
briefly,
the band, yeah.
and Walt Fowler on trumpet, Jeff Simmons. So it's a little bit
And
different
Bruce,
than the
yeah.
Roxy band because Ruth isn't there. But there's some cool stuff. Like one thing that just absolutely blew my mind is they're doing Harry Your Beast. You know, the
Yeah.
and in the middle of it, Simmons is playing like waka chicka waka chicka waka chicka waka chicka waka chicka. It makes
Yeah.
it funky. It's like, well, what? It's
Yeah,
incredible.
it's so killer. Also, like, Napoleon singing some of that stuff is great too, like, um, "Let's Make the Water Turn Black."
Mhm.
It's really cool, and it's a really weirdo arrangement also, in a good way.
Yes, and I was gonna mention that that's one of the reasons why I went back and revisited this because there is an arrangement of "Let's Make the Water Turn Black" on Cheaper that's different
Yeah,
than the
that is
Edinburgh arrangement.
super neat also. I don't know, Jocko would probably give us more context, but I don't think they played that tune very much on this band's tour, like, after the 10 Years Mother and before they went to Europe. They might have not played it at all, actually. I'm not sure for certain, but, it's so interesting to hear it because there's, like, a lot of extra stuff in the back half of that tune, and it's so interesting.
Yeah, Frank plays a solo, which is I
Yeah,
just
there's a
didn't
solo
expect.
too.
Yeah. But Jocko says, "Of all the shows the Trust released, Edinburgh is my favorite one." I might agree. It's hard to disagree with that. But I'm
It's one
also
of my
fond of
favorites.
Rainbow. Sorry?
It's one of my favorites too. The Rainbow Theater, I'm also a big fan of. I also really love Buffalo 1980, and I love the last 88 US tour one also.
I love that one as well.
Yeah, I love those.
But he says,
The
"Don't diss disc 1 too much. My favorite version of Pygmy Twilight is on it." I'm not dissing it.
This one's
Um,
great.
disc 1 is great. It's just that I'm a Mother's guy. I like the early albums a lot. I have a lot of nostalgia for them and love. It I just wanted to highlight that. And something else that I remembered, Mike, and maybe you don't, maybe you remember this, maybe you don't, but when I went and hung out with you 10 years ago,
Mhm.
you played this for me on a bootleg. You played the Edinburgh show. And that was the first time I'd ever heard it.
Did I?
Yeah. Yep.
Oh yeah, we did too. We did the Edinburgh show and we did the Armadillo World Headquarters,
Yes.
Texas, and it was the first concert of the Roxy band, which is a bootleg that sounds stupendous. Also, yeah, that's right. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was. But you introduced me to that. You introduced me to a lot of music on that visit. Like, one of the things was Godspeed You Black Emperor. I remember
I
hearing
love them.
that.
Yeah,
XTC's English Settlement, which we'll talk
we'll
about
get to the
in
XTC. I actually brought the
just
other one.
a second.
So
I actually wanted to use Jocko's comment, and
yeah,
I didn't realize, Jocko, I didn't realize you were available today. I might have invited you to join. But he says Mike is correct, and he's talking about, which is the song he's talking? Is
let's
it
make the water turn black.
Water Turn Black? They only played at the start of the fall '74 tour. They did it again during the Bongo Fury tour. Well, roll
Bongo
screet.
Fury.
Music from the other side of the fence. Opaque melodies that would bug most people. What a great album.
Yeah, I love it. I have a promo vinyl copy. It sounds ridiculous. It sounds so good. I love that
Wow.
album. It's a favorite. I mean, it also's got Bruce Fowler. Eddie Zappa with Bruce is always a step above for me.
Yeah,
But
you're
yeah,
right. And Bruce had been out of the band for a little while. I guess he rejoined.
yeah, he was in the 10 years of the Mother's band, and then after that band, him, Don Preston, and Walt Fowler and somebody else like left, and then that was it for 74, and then they came back for this band. Oh, Bruce anyway, and then this was the end of the classic Zappa era. I like this band is like it's interesting to think about this band for me because it's at once like a capstone of this era because you still have the core band that's been together since like 73, except for Terry Bozzio coming in as
Yeah.
drummer. And there's like, it's also a transitional period because this is the only time we get Beefheart with the Zappa band. You get Terry Bozzio, who's really important going forward for the next couple of years. But you also get all these other elements, and you get material that's played just here and nowhere else. It's super interesting, I think. And this is the 50th anniversary of this band being alive, and I'm hoping and thinking that there will be some sort of release this year. So we only
Actually,
have Bongo Fury, and then
right.
one track on stage 4 is the only official material from this band thus
Yep.
far.
And that's Torture Never Stops, right?
Yep. Yeah, it's the early like swamp blues version. It's
Which
really
is fun.
cool.
Which is
Yeah, it's
fun.
really fun.
I just wanted to point out that the 50th anniversary of the recording of this performance was this week.
Oh my God, really?
It was recorded May 20th and 21st, 1975.
Wow.
And I love the little like Americana thread that the whole idea of the 200th anniversary of the United States is coming up, and these corporations are going to sell you stuff that you shouldn't ought to buy, and that just feels like such a timeless
it is.
timeless
It's
sentiment.
awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, this is an interesting album. It's like a mix of some of the Mothers performance from May 20th and the 21st at Armadillo World Headquarters, Austin, Texas, with some, as it says, selected studio wonderment. That being, I guess, 200 Years Old, Cucamonga, and bits of the Muffin Man were done, I think, in the studio.
Yeah, like the whole monologue in the beginning is Frank in the studio.
Right. But I love hearing Terry Bozzio with this band. He gives it just a whole nother sort of immediacy. And I love Chester.
Yeah.
Chester's a great drummer. But I guess at this point he was looking at the Genesis dudes as his
Phil Collins, I think, really
employment.
wanted Chester because Phil Collins absolutely flipped out over the Trouble Every Day drum fills.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I got to play with this guy. But yeah, also the Terry Bozzio, like immediately, he's only like 19 or something on his recording, or 18. He sounds incredible already.
Yeah. And he wasn't even, I think, the most, how do I want to put this? I don't think he was like one of the most accomplished musicians at the band at that time. He had talked about how like he couldn't really read music yet. And he was just kind of thrown into the deep end. Frank saw in him a quality that he liked. Just a natural musicianship that he liked.
Yeah.
And he just threw him in the deep end of this stuff. And Terry grew. He grew a lot in a very short time.
Yeah, he talks about that in the orchestral favorites, like little double disc set that came out a couple years ago, like the anniversary edition. His liner notes are terrific. So he said the orchestral concerts, the UCLA concerts, were among his favorite stuff that he ever did with Frank. And they're really formative for him. He also, like, Terry brings a real like emotion and fire to like almost everything with this era of Zappa, and I really like that, especially I'm not so keen on the bands that follow the Bongo Fury band, but I really like the 77, 78 stuff, and I like the Bianca band also.
Yes. And that band's on the Erie set too, which
yes,
I
it is.
just showed. But yeah, let's answer. Salim says a Bongo anniversary release would be something else. That's what I'm hoping for, but I don't want them to skip One Size Fits All. Because that's one of my favorite Zappa records. And there's also some studio material associated with that we need to get some live stuff. I would like to see the Token of His Extreme DVD. I'd like to see that given an upgrade of some sort. I don't know what they could do with it, but if it were like more complete, because I know there's some songs that were on Dublin Special that didn't make it to the original broadcast.
Yeah.
But yeah. I mean, I want both of them. I want a box of One Size Fits All, but I want a box of Bongo Fury with some live material. A multi-channel mix of Bongo Fury would be unbelievable, I think. If possible, I think that would be just an unbelievable choice. Jocko says the vocals on Muffin Man are studio too. When they played it live on that tour, it was still an instrumental. I didn't know that. But if you see it on Baby Snakes just a couple years later, that was 77. It's
Yeah.
still an instrumental. You were mentioning Halloween 77. That's another Zappa set that I'd like to get back in my collection, because that's
I
a
was thinking about that too.
outstanding
I never
performance.
owned it. I have the like highlights from it.
That's what I meant. The 3-disc
Yeah,
highlights. Yeah, I'd like to get that back in my collection.
it's great. The music on the Halloween sets is awesome. I just don't like all the extra nonsense, like the Zappa mask or whatever the heck. Like I love a
Yeah.
re-release of those with just the discs, and I would
Yep.
buy them in a second, especially the 81 one, because the 81 82 Zappa band is really special for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I think
That's
the
right.
way that
John Smothers. Sorry, go ahead. Jocko says that
oh,
John
that's
Smothers
right.
is singing it. Yeah, on Baby Snake.
That's right. I forgot about that. I guess I need to revisit Baby Snakes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The
the Halloween 77 show was released in a really strange way, because it was like, here's the full run of the shows on a flash drive and a mask.
I forgot about yeah, that's so weird.
And then they did just I think the Halloween night show as a 3-disc set. And I'd be game for that. I'd be game for the Halloween night show, to hear
It's
that.
great. I like that band is really awesome for me too. Like there's also like our early version of Conehead that's like just a guitar solo that's really
Yeah.
smoking. Like I think that maybe like so 74 is like a really peak Frank guitar year. Then like there's like parts of greatness again throughout, but until 77. But I think 77 is when he starts to really ramp up his guitar playing, and then from 78 to like 82, it's like the best period.
Mm-hmm.
Like this is like Frank's peak, as a player, and it's like almost every solo is like for me, it's like heaven.
That's how Cheaper Than Cheap was for me. It's like I'm not always a guitar disciple, a guitar solo guy. But his solos on Cheaper Than Cheap, that set, they just keep it's like if most people are in a box, he just kept reaching far as out of the box as he possibly could, and like,
yeah, he sounds incredible on that.
just following his imagination wherever it would take him. Which was just incredible. It's incredible to witness.
Yeah, it is. Oh, Jocko's got a good point here.
Check out the 30th October show too. I think it's the best of the run. There are some pretty cool proto versions, and overall is a better performance than the Halloween one. That's interesting. I was not aware of that.
Yeah,
That's
I'd like to hear
interesting.
that. I don't know. I can't remember if this whole set is on streaming or if it's just
I
the
believe it is.
Halloween night. Yeah, maybe it's time to spin that. I would like to hear that again.
So we're going to take a sidestep. I want to talk Chicago.
Yes.
I don't know if any folks have that, but I think that it might be a decent segue for these guys here, because I know Jocko likes XTC. I'm sure we got some.
I
got
pulled
any
out one or two.
Got any XTC fans in the chat today?
Yeah. Let us know. We adore XTC. They're like the Beatles for me.
Yeah, well, okay. I don't think you introduced me to these albums, but these are the last two XTC albums. And basically, they had a long-term dispute with Virgin Records over the single that was canceled, Wrapped in Gray, which is ironic because that whole song is about, embracing the color of life and, the variety and art and,
yes.
and how art enriches your soul. And, some people carry the world around like a slate or whatever it is. And that song being, axed by the record company has like this sad meta quality to it, that I think prevented that, and also Andy Partridge's divorce, I think prevented new XTC material from coming out for a very long time.
Yeah.
And when it finally did come out, it was I think it was originally intended to be a double album set. But Dave Gregory, the guitar player, was like, well, no, let's just take the best songs. I don't think this is strong enough for two albums. Let's take this as the best songs and make it into one. And he ended up leaving over that. He left the band over that. So this is like, to me, the last true XTC album. And for me, this is Apple Venus 1. It's very pastoral. It's like got an orchestral backing. So it's different than say Oranges and Lemons, but it definitely does feel like a follow up to None Such. This one is interesting because it's more rock based, and you'd think based on that alone, like Dave Gregory would shine on this material. But his absence is felt to me. It does have some terrific songs on it.
Yeah.
But as a whole, I find this one a little bit of a step back. This is Wasp Star. We will get just a second, but Terry Walker says, I'm still living in hope that the English settlement masters can be found. We get a Steven Wilson multi-channel mix. I think that is more possible now than it ever has been. And here's why. So I believe and we have another comment to get to in a moment, but I believe that the singles for English settlement are what's missing. So that would be like Ball and Chain, and Senses Working Overtime. The major tracks on the album are missing, but you do have, for instance, Living in the Past, that box set coming out where you have AI upmixes of songs such as One for John G and Witch's Promise. And I would take a look at how that does, like take a look at some of the forums, like Steve Hoffman forums, and you might see more of that sort of thing, AI upmixes of tracks. So I think English settlement is more possible than ever at the moment. We'll just have to see how people react. And you have Derek Schulman talking about doing an AI upmix of In a Glass House, the entire album. So we'll just have to see how that performs and if the fans are accepting of it. I need to answer this. S. Kowalchuk, have you seen Roxy the Music? Also, thank you for the $2. I appreciate that. Have you seen Roxy the movie? Yes.
It's terrific.
It's awesome. I need to watch it again, but that's a great set.
Yeah, the long awaited set. It felt like that release really felt like a special one for us Zappa fans, because that's been something that's been, something terrible has happened when they recorded it, and it's been sitting in the vault waiting for the fix, and they had the fix, and finally we're able to see this legendary concert, and it's truly special.
It is. I need to watch it again. But for me, that was the Holy Grail.
Yeah, for me too.
The first Holy Grail that kind of opened the floodgates for all of this stuff to happen. I'm going to highlight that comment again just so people know what we're talking about. But I'll get to you, Scott. Yeah, that was the one that broke through to get all of this stuff, like the Rainbow Show, and now Cheaper Than Cheap, which suffered the same problems, the audio sync problems. But it's a great set. I am still undecided if I like Cheaper Than Cheap better than Roxy or better than A Token of His Extreme. I think that the newness of it is kind of distorting my view, but there's also something really appealing about having a complete 2-hour performance now that captures a very special moment. I mean, not to say Roxy isn't, but some of those, like the version of Inca Roads, the lounge version, isn't my favorite. So, I mean, I think on the whole, and maybe this is controversial for some, on the whole, I prefer 74 to 73. That being said, the entirety of 73 and 74 are my favorite eras of Frank's music, full stop. Did you have any thoughts on that, Mike, before I move to Scott's comment?
It's hard for me to pick a favorite. I think because this Cheaper Than Cheap is so recent, it needs to sit in time with the other two. I think, for me, it's maybe the Roxy is my favorite just because it is a full live performance, and it was so important to come out for me. It's like the Roxy band was my favorite for a long time. I think my actual favorite Zappa band is the second half 74, like the fall to the end. But the Roxy's number 2. And, because Bruce Fowler's in the band, the 2 drummers, seeing them do all of that, plus Dickie's such an asshole, that might be the best. I think, Inca Roads is my favorite Zappa composition, and the best version for me is the full flight Inca Roads. So Token of Extreme is the best one for me, especially that solo too. That solo is nuts.
Do you mean the Helsinki solo that was used on the album?
No, the Token of His Extreme. The Helsinki solo is iconic. That's a masterpiece also. But the one on Token of His Extreme is crazy good. Like it's
Yeah.
crazy good Frank, and that's the beginning of Inca Roads being potentially the solo vehicle for Frank in many ways, besides like Watermelon and
Yeah.
Black Napkins and stuff.
Yep. I find that Helsinki Inca Road solo that is the quintessential
It
Frank Zappa
is,
solo for
yeah, it
me.
probably is. That's such an amazing solo. It's so
But
melodic.
the thing that I think might give Roxy the movie a bit of an edge, for me anyway, is that we do have "Don't You Ever Wash That Thing" on there,
Yeah.
which that sequence, Echedna Zarf into "Don't You Ever Wash That Thing," that's like the centerpiece of the Roxy album. And then you also get Bebop Tango on
That's the other
video.
thing, Bebop Tango, yeah.
Yeah, that was always something that without the visuals, it just didn't work as well on the album. So it's great to have it as a film. And then it's also got a great version of Big Swifty.
Yeah, that Big Swifty's amazing.
I'm the Slime into Big Swifty, which had been previously released, but that's got another one of my favorite Frank solos when he launches into that wasp stuff and the feedback's coming through. I got to watch that like now.
Yeah, and all the hand signals too during the solos, like during Duke's solo too. It's
Yes.
great.
Yeah, that's so. We're gonna move on. We got a couple of XTC related
Yeah,
comments.
we
We're
should
just
talk about
bouncing
why I
around,
have
man.
thoughts about these too. Yeah, because I just revisited both of them the past week.
I want to say hello to Scott from Ohio. Scott has a wonderful YouTube channel called the Prog Corner, who I do watch. I watch as much as I can. And yesterday he did a great live stream with a couple of my other favorite creators. The vinyl verse guy. I hope I'm saying that correctly, but his channel, he's like a new channel and he's great. But Pete Pardo from Sea of Tranquility was there and some other folks, but they were talking about the top 10 best Black Sabbath songs. And I love
Oh,
Black
that's
Sabbath.
cool. Yeah.
And Killing Yourself to Live, that's my favorite Black Sabbath tune. Do you have a favorite Black Sabbath tune, Mike?
I don't know. I have to think about that one. That's really hard. It could be maybe Electric Funeral.
Oh yeah, that one's good.
I love that. Well,
Electric
of
Funeral.
course, like War Pigs is really iconic. There's a
Yep.
couple songs on Master of Reality I really love
Children
too.
of the Grave.
Yeah, totally. I don't know if I have I would probably pick Electric Funeral, like if I had to pick one, but I don't know if I can pick one without doing some re-listening again, because I haven't heard Sabbath in quite a while.
You're making me want to pull out the Quadio of Paranoid again and peel paint.
Yeah, that rips.
Yeah.
God, that album rips.
So Prog Corner says Dave left in part. He's talking about Dave Gregory from XTC because Andy Partridge insisted on using a real orchestra and putting them in serious debt. That might be true. I listened to an interview with Dave Gregory from a while back, and I don't remember all the details. That was years ago. And I know Dave is, he's such a gentleman. He's such a kind man, but I do remember reading that those orchestral parts that they recorded as live strings, like Andy was very adamant about using real strings. And they ended up being a mess, like tonality issues, because if you've ever, like I do recording, but if you have ever tried to record strings, it's a nightmare. And 9 out of 10 times you end up using synthetic strings in the end, because they're just easier to control basically. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that when you record strings, you should record a section. It's really not ideal to record, okay, one violin part. Okay, let's layer the viola. Okay, let's layer the cello. You really should have everybody set up and playing, and like one or two, like a stereo pair or something like that hanging above, and get like the ensemble sound, because that is how those instruments are intended to be heard. But let's see. Yeah, so let's talk about Apple Venus a little bit. We do have another Frank related comment, but let's talk about Apple Venus. Apple Venus 1. This is
Louisiana. Nice prehistoric Earth references. I like that.
Apple Venus Volume 1 was the album that got me into XTC. Better late than never. So, okay, Mike, tell me about Apple Venus.
Yeah, so both this album and Wasp Star, which is on my shelf, I've pretty intimately familiar with these albums. I listened to them for a long time. I haven't heard them in a couple years, so I wanted to. Last week I spun both of them and then got Ian to do the same thing. I typically, like, as a listening, like, ritual, I would spin the song Easter Theater, track 3 on Easter. I didn't do that this year. So I did it this past week.
And the
I think
Marillion one. Those are the 2 Easters. This one and the
yeah,
Marillion
and
one.
besides Bach, because you have to listen to Bach
Yeah,
during
right.
Easter. But you know, I after revisiting these, which has been a treat, I think this album, Apple Venus 1, is a stronger record, but I think the highs on Wasp Star are higher than this one.
You
I
might
think
you might be right about
so.
that.
Here's my favorite songs. I think Harvest Festival is an absolute knockout and is,
What was
you know,
best of all was that
yeah,
loving
it's
kiss you gave
beyond
to
devastating. That bridge
yeah.
is crazy in there. And of course, I said Easter Theater already, and I Can't Own Her. And Your Dictionary is the other amazing song on here.
Mhm.
And Wastar has Playground is a fun opener.
It
It's
is.
got Your Light, which is some of the most creative songwriting I think in the whole catalog. We're All Light.
We Are All Light.
Yeah,
I
and
read
then
that on a bumper sticker someplace.
yeah, I love that. It's just so great. It's like, connecting the cosmic wonder of the universe with just,
And
going on a date with a girl.
doesn't that also relate to Andy's contribution on the new Steven Wilson album, on the
Yeah, it
overview,
does. Absolutely.
which is fascinating.
Yeah, the thoughts continue. And I think the last 3 songs on Star are among the best in the whole catalog. Like you
Oh,
get
yeah.
You and the Clouds Will Still Be Beautiful, Church of Women, which is another knockout. I think Andy's songwriting is like firing on all cylinders on this album. And then The Wheel and the Maypole is probably the best like capstone to a career of any other
Yeah.
song that exists.
It's
It is
Everything Decays.
stunning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like a
It's
meta
a
commentary on the end of XTC, which is
yeah,
fascinating.
it's so amazing. And it was started out as 2 separate songs that he sandwiched together, and it works like wonderfully well.
Like A Day in the Life. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
interesting.
It's like it almost gives me chills every time I hear that song. It's really special. And our friend Jocko agrees here in the comments too. I also adore it.
Yeah, the Wheel and the Maypole is probably the best song on both of them, but
Yeah.
I'll just go back and add my commentary a little bit here. I think I like AV1 better overall, but like you said, there's a couple of highlights on 2. Sometimes Collins tunes on AV1 hold it back a little bit for me.
Yeah. I don't think
Um,
Colin's songs are as strong on either of them, unfortunately.
but Frivolous Tonight is kind of fun.
I like that one.
Just kind of like capturing domestic situations and like kind of like a absurdist way. But River of Orchids is
Yeah.
terrific. It's like a minimalist thing.
That Water Drops to start is great.
Yeah. Yeah. And the plucking of the strings. I love Easter Theater. It's just so evocative. It's like you can listen to that and you can see the like a painting in my mind. I can see a painting in my mind as
Yeah.
opening like the flowers coming up out of the ground and bugs buzzing and stuff. It's sort of like, I like to say that the color of spring, the Talk Talk album, that album has always sounded like the frozen dew on the grass in the early days of spring. Whereas this album is more like the later, the warmer, the warmth is coming back. I could see playing Color of Spring and Apple Venus 1 sort of back to back as my spring duology. I also love Green Man. We were talking about Stars in Battle Dress, like Knights in Shining Karma. I always thought if Stars in Battle Dress never did a cover of that, they should, because it almost sounds like one of their songs already.
Yeah, that's a really great song. And then what a great title also. Knights in Shining Karma.
Shining Karma.
That's really smart.
Your Dictionary, that song has to run through my head once a day. It's like, even the smallest disagreements, it's like, well, that word must not be in your dictionary.
Yeah, and the harmonies in the last 30 seconds of that song are just pure magic.
I Can't Own Her.
That's like taking Brian Wilson, but like going even beyond the Beach Boys. Like, it's really amazing.
And it's kind of like there's a song like that on the Dukes of Stratosphere. It's very Wilsonified, but this is almost like the next step from that. But yeah, the Harvest Festival and The Last Balloon, this is a great album. Now, talking about AV2, I've always loved Playground. I heard that on like one of my last days of school. and that line, "You may leave school, but it never leaves you," has always stuck with me. But "Marked by the masters and bruised by the bullies" is another just totally
Yeah, it's
memorable.
the lyrics are so great.
But I wanted to highlight because like there's a lot of really good songs. Like "We're All Light" is one of the best XTC songs. "Wheel in the Maypole," of course, is. It's kind of fun because I actually think Colin's songs are a little stronger on this one. I mean, "Boarded Up" is like an elegy for a building, especially it's specifically a music venue.
Yeah.
And so it's like it's conceptual continuity back to Ball and Chain in a strange way. But I love how you've got this duology of songs, "Standing In for Joe" and "Wounded Horse," that are it's almost like two perspectives on the same idea,
Yeah,
which
you
is
said that, I was like,
infidelity.
"Oh, you're right." Yeah, it's like, "Oh, they're, standing in for Joe, he's gonna do the thing," and then it's the husband who's the wounded horse now.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they are kind of both relationship records, I
Yeah.
think. Um, but yeah, great albums, and I'm kind of glad that you had me pull these out. I'd heard this one
Yeah.
recently, but this one I hadn't heard in a little while.
Yeah, and they're, unfortunately, they're not on streaming, either of them.
Yeah, that's rather
Still,
strange, but I think that probably has something to do with the record label
yeah, this is on
fiasco.
TVT Records or something, Apple Venus One. Yeah, there's some sort of rights thing. I'm not sure exactly what it is, but it's kind of a disappointment for those who, like us, love XTC and don't like on the go, don't always have the CDs with them.
Right. Well, I know that
So it
like
goes.
when I drive down to Chapel Hill, North Carolina for Prog Day, um, I always am playing XTC albums. And as a result of that, and I have access to streaming, not discs in the car. As a result of that, these two don't get played as much, whereas I hear those other ones every single year.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do kind of wish they were on streaming because I would, I own the discs, but I definitely would stream them in the car if available. But Big Eyed Bean, we're bouncing back to Frank here for a second.
Yeah.
Big Eyed Bean Vision says "Freak Out" is Frank's most important recording. It's debatable, but he might have a point there.
It is the first one,
Yeah,
which,
it's the one that opened the
is
floodgates.
enormously important. Yeah.
Yep, and it's one of my favorites. I don't know if I'm on record as saying this, but "Trouble Every Day" might be my favorite Frank Zappa song in any iteration, and the original version is the most cutting
Yeah, it's a really
rendition.
special song for sure.
Yeah.
Probably that and Brain Police are Can't Happen
Oh
Here are
yeah.
the three for me from Freak Out. I really enjoy Freak Out when I hear it. I just don't spin it enough. It's like once every few years I'll whip it out and it'll be a great listen, but then I'll not go back to it again for whatever reason.
It's
I
one of
really
my favorite. I'm
I
sorry.
really like Freak Out. Sorry,
Yeah.
I really like Freak Out, but it's something I just don't listen to enough in the
Yeah.
Zappa
Let me
universe.
grab the disc real quick because I'm trying
Yeah.
to remember what's on it.
That's Hungry Freaks Daddy is one of the best openings in the whole Zappa canon. Really, it's the first one. The album also has percussion on it too, which is a little different for the Mothers itself.
Yeah, this is the
There's the
version
there's
that
the
I have.
Mofo Project object. I have both that and I have the Ryko disc.
I also have the
Freak Out.
remix. I have it over there just because the cover is more amazing. It's one of my
Yeah,
favorite Frank
the original
covers.
cover is better.
But I think what
Excuse me.
makes Freak Out kind of special is that it has so many great Frank songs. I Ain't Got No Heart is just a great song.
Yeah, it became
Um,
kind of a live staple too. One of
yeah,
those like cut the tension songs, which I love that Frank does. He'll pull out that or some other older song to just split between some of the more technically involved songs. And you get that or Love of My Life. And it's one of my
yeah.
favorite things that Frank does in his later career.
Any Way the Wind Blows. That's another one I think
Yeah,
is
that's a great song.
beautiful. I'm Not Satisfied. There's a version of that on Cheaper Than Cheap that's just great.
Yeah, I love the energy that band inflicts into that song. It's so great. The Beefheart band version, I think, is my favorite.
But
Rippin'.
Wowie Zowie, that's another one that just
Wowie
lives in my
Zowie's
head.
fun.
It's so
Yeah.
much fun.
There's also How Could I Be Such a Fool is on there.
Yep. And I love all those. Like a lot of people, I guess, don't care for the R&B or the doo-wop influenced Frank Zappa songs, but I'm one of those people who loves Cruising with Ruben and the Jets.
Yeah.
Because I can hear how much affection Frank has for the style.
Yeah,
And that
it's great.
transcends it for me.
It's like Frank is doing what Stravinsky was doing with like the classical genre, classical music. Like Stravinsky did a whole era of in like the 20s. That's like his Pulcinella suite is probably the biggest example of that. But it's taking like late 17, early 1800s classical music, playing a genuine homage to it, but also poking fun at it. And that's exactly what Frank is doing with doo-wop music. And it's really smart. It's awesome.
Yep. Yeah,
There's
but he
like a
also
heart there, but he's also like, this is stupid, but it's also I love it. Like
I love it
it's
because
a
it's
great
dumb.
juxtaposition. Yeah. I think
Yeah,
it's kind of
what's the
genius,
one?
honestly.
Fountain of Love. That's
Yeah,
like the most.
Fountain of Love. I should get Ray Collins singing on both
Yeah.
that and on Freak Out. Ray Collins is a genuinely amazing singer.
This is
I
one
love Ray Collins.
I have heard this one a lot recently, but I'm always up for a revisit of it. Oh, Eric's here. Welcome, Eric.
Hey.
Freak Out was my still the most impactful album ever for me. Who are the Brain Police? That, and I was going to bring that up, is that, yeah, there is that element of psychedelia that kind of
Oh
runs through
yeah.
it. Like Who Are the Brain Police, Hungry Freaks Daddy, but the whole last side is help I'm a rock. It can't help here. It can't help happen here.
Help
Return
him
of the
a
Sun,
rock.
Monster Magnet.
Yeah.
I think what makes this album so great is that it's a thesis statement for everything that followed.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's so much here, from the doo-wop parodies, as you said, the quote unquote serious classical music, if you can call Return of the Sun of the Monster Magnet serious. That's there. This is like stuff that he would continue to. There's guitar solos. It's maybe not as expansive as some of the later stuff, but this is ground zero for Frank. And I think that maybe the most brilliant part of it is that it does set the tone for
for everything going forward.
25 years.
Yeah. It's very special. I'm going to run to the bathroom real quick. I'll be right
Okay,
back.
I'll take over.
Yeah,
Eric
let him
says
go.
that all the freaks were allowed in the studio still blows me away. Yeah, that's very funny. It's like, where are you guys going with all those drums at 2:00 in the morning? I think was one of the folklore, one of the folklore bits associated with this record. So how you folks doing out there? What are you listening to? I saw that that Eric is he says, "Oi, Eric is in the chat. I thought I would take the opportunity to announce that next week Eric is going to guest, along with Dave Newhouse from the Muffins and Jerry King, who's known for the band Cloud Over Jupiter, as well as Moon X. What this all has in common is that Eric, Dave, and Jerry and I are all involved with a project called Moon X, which I just mentioned. But Eric does the visual, the graphic design, putting together the artwork and stuff. And obviously I do the mixing and mastering, and Dave and Jerry do the music. And this won't be like a promotional exercise. It's not going to be like an interview or something like that. I'm going to stick to the format of talking about what we are listening to. But it's going to be a fun time, I think. I mean, all these guys, we've been working together on different projects and different combinations for years, but I think that'll be the first time that we've all been kind of in the same room together and talking. So I think next, and that's going to be Sunday, by the way. We are moving the stream from Monday to Sunday, because I'm hoping that more people in the States will be able to join. Not that I don't mind talking to a primarily European audience at all. In fact, I enjoy it. It's just that I definitely do feel like I am missing out on a huge part of my subscriber base by going on Mondays. Today, of course, is a holiday. I forgot to say that. Happy Memorial Day to those who celebrate. So a lot of folks are probably out at cookouts with their families and stuff. But the whole concept here is that, you know, I would like to keep to like a weekend schedule for streaming for the most part, but I will move this stream around based on when people are available, because I do like the idea of playing to different audiences at different times. So Mike's back. I do want to highlight that Big
Hi.
Eyed Bean Vision said, I love Moon X," and I greatly appreciate that.
Nice.
What we'll probably do next week is we'll probably show one of the videos that we did as kind of an intro. So that'll be fun. But Terry Walker says, just to backtrack to XTC for a moment, do you guys like the Dukes of Stratosphere albums? I never checked them
Yes.
out. Mike, take over. I will grab my copy.
Great. Mine are over on the shelf. Yes, I quite like them. You know, it's probably the perfect homage to the psychedelia era ever. Those albums are also packed with references to almost every psychedelic or late 60s group under the sun. And plus, you got Andy and Colin's songwriting, so of course the songs are going to be good. I think, the few of those songs are among the best XTC related songs out there. Like, you get 25 o'clock. There's that one song that's like the Beach Boys that I'm forgetting the name of. That's the most recent
Pale and
Steven
Precious.
Wilson mix. Yeah, Pale and Precious. That's beautiful. There's also some really great guitar and bass playing on these albums. Like, for some reason they slap. Like 25 o'clock has some of the best opening fuzz bass. Period. It's awesome. I love them. They're, you know, I don't know if they quite make the top 5 like XTC projects for me, but they're pretty close. Especially 25 o'clock.
I'm going to answer something real quick, and then I'm going to go back to that.
Yeah.
Eric says, I need to run, but today I'm playing Stand Up's Elevated Edition. I finally got it. Last one I wanted to get. Cheers. That's
nice.
a great edition of that album. It's probably never sounded better, but thanks for joining us, Eric. I hope you enjoy that. And next
have
week,
fun.
I've already created a listening list for next week, and Stand Up is on it. So we're going to be talking a little Stand Up next week. Thanks again, Eric. We'll see you next time.
See you, Eric.
Next Sunday.
Why am I waving that way?
Okay. So talking about, yeah, sounds damn good so far. Have a good one, fellers. You too.
See ya.
See ya. So talking about Dukes of Stratosphere, this is XTC's version of Cruising with Ruben and the Jets. If you think about it, you could like as much as Cruising with Ruben and the Jets is talking about old R&B material and a band out of time, you know, this anachronism of let's bring back this old 50s material and update it for the psychedelia era. This is comes out in the context of the mid 80s, like the new romantic era, a new wave, post-punk, that kind of stuff. Of course, pop music like Michael Jackson. And, you know, here these guys are going back to the 60s, and they released the 25 o'clock. Isn't that what the first one was called? Wasn't it just called
25 o'clock? Yeah, then Sonic Sunspot.
And Sonic Sunspot was the follow-up. That was an actual album. But 25 o'clock was an EP that came out on April Fool's Day, and it was released under the pseudonym of the Dukes of Stratosphere. And the whole concept was that the Dukes of Stratosphere were this long-lost 60s psychedelic band that, oh, by the way, the Beach Boys, the Beatles, the Kinks all ripped off. Like, they all stole from. This is the original. This is the source. You know, that was kind of the broader context, when in fact it's the opposite. You know, they're referencing all these old bands. But I've always thought that the EP was a little stronger, with songs like 25 o'clock, the absolutely Syd Barrett-esque Bike Ride to the Moon.
Oh yeah.
My Love Explodes, which you know, that's another really great song. What in the World, Your Gold Dress. But The Mole from the Ministry is another song that proves that if you want to make a great song, just rip off I'm the Walrus.
Yeah.
Tears for Fears did that with Sowing the Seeds of Love successfully, and XTC did it with great success with Mole from the Ministry. Now, the follow-up, Sonic Sunspot with a P.
With a P, yeah.
Silent P, like pterodactyl. Pterodactyl. That was an actual album. That was a full-length album, and it's got it's sort of like Apple Venus too. It's got some terrific songs on it. Like Vanishing Girl, I think is devastating.
Oh God, I love that song.
Devastating pop song. I love Kaleidoscope. I love You're My Drug. Brainiac's Daughter.
Oh man, yeah, I forgot
It's
about
like
that
a
one.
painting for your ears.
Yeah.
As we mentioned before, Pale and Precious. So it's a little bit of a step back. Who was the guy who asked about Terry? Yeah,
Terry,
to
yeah.
me, the follow up, the full length LP is a little bit of a step back from 25 o'clock. And it feels a little bit more like a typical XTC record in some ways.
Yeah, it's even got like psychedelic interludes. Like there's a girl doing narration through some of it, and there's another narrator I think too, which like sometimes works and sometimes it's like, all right, let's get to the tunes. But
Yeah.
it still works. It's like a slight step back.
Yeah, it's not like a drop off.
Yeah, no, it's just like slightly less successful.
But most versions that you get would have both on it. So
yeah,
I recommend getting something that has both versions or both albums on it. And the 5.1 mix, it does miss some elements because some of the elements were added, I think, in the mastering stage, and they weren't present on the multi-track elements. And I'm not sure, but I do think that you do get the original mixes on here somewhere. Like
I think they're on the Blu-ray, right?
On the Blu-ray, yeah. But it is a fun 5.1 mix from Steven Wilson, and it's one that I play quite often. So
I haven't heard it in a while. I think
I
it's
do
great.
recommend it. Yeah, and it does lead into skylarking, which is interesting.
Yeah, it does. It's like the preamble, the skylarking.
And you even get like Little Lighthouse. There's a skylarking
I love
version
that
of
song.
that.
Yeah.
And I love it in any version. So
yeah, me too. Yeah, we have in the comments mentioning the song Shiny Cage and also Albert Brown are two songs that I almost forgot about also. They're great. They're great songs. Yeah, even if like you sample these like on a shuffle with other XTC stuff, they'll hit. The songs hit hard.
I wanted to highlight Jocko's comment because it says, "Did you guys catch the Megaphone of Destiny spoof at the end of Albert Brown where they laugh maniacally and say furniture instead of arbitrary?" And the reason why I wanted to highlight this is that a few years ago, Andy Partridge used to be very accessible through Twitter, which I deleted my Twitter account about a year ago. So I'm not even accessible via Twitter now. So I understand where Andy's coming from. That being said, I did tweet Andy one time. And my question to Andy was, Andy, what's your favorite Frank Zappa album? And he responded, We're Only In It For The Money. And so, yes, there are spoofs of We're Only In It For The Money on the Dukes albums. And that, I guess, ties back into all this Zappadom that we're discussing today.
Yeah. It's all part of the continuity,
Let us know what you think, Terry. If you get a chance to hear it, let us know what you think. So, Mike, you had to head out here soon. Did you want to discuss one of your favorites before you go?
Yeah.
The Boys from Illinois. Chicago?
Yeah, totally. I didn't pull out the disc, but yes, this is, I don't know if I've said it on the channel before, but this is a top 3 all-time album for me. It may be number 1 by anybody.
Wow, this is your favorite of all time?
Yeah, it's either this, the Rotters Club by Hatfield in the North, or Roxy and Elsewhere, the Zappa album.
Those are all great albums.
Yeah, that's like my trifecta. Number 3, and then like you could like number 4 is probably like Of Q's and Cures by National Health. And then it's everything else.
Maybe one of my favorite memories ever is when I was at your place. This is a decade ago.
Yeah,
you had the Of Q's and Cures record on, and like you ran down the steps. You're on at the trombone part at one point. And I just every time I hear it now, I see and I hear you.
That is magic. It's musical magic to me. Is that, and the song "Binoculars" too is really special for me. We're talking about Chicago here,
but we're talking about Chicago here, not the Bride and two-step.
This is the new. Although we can try to do that, but yeah, this is the new multi-channel mix of the Steven Wilson mix of Chicago too, which is, like I said, a favorite of mine. I don't have multi-channel audio, but I have the Wilson mix, and I think the Wilson mix Wilson did such an amazing job bringing out everything in this album. Chicago is a band that's been close to my heart since I was a baby. Like, I grew up listening to Chicago and Steely Dan and jazz and all that stuff. So I've known this album my whole life, but the mixes on some of these are not amazing because a lot of the way they recorded Chicago was just like a microphone or two in the room with the band, and then the band would play, which is great, but
I didn't know that.
you don't get like all of the nitty gritty super well. I don't think they were like either something with the mastering or the mixing that was kind of, I don't know, some of it's muted. Like, there's a lot of stuff on the Steven Wilson mix that really is highlighted.
Yeah.
That is not highlighted. I think I could be wrong, but I think there's like a lot of the stuff was recorded in like just a take or two. They just
I can
blew
believe that.
through it. Yeah.
So they just recorded the horn section, just sat up and with a couple mics and went for it, or
yeah, and that was it.
Oh, that's incredible.
It's
I
nuts.
didn't know
Yeah. I could make a strong argument that at this point, especially like around 1971, Chicago was, in my opinion, the best band around. No question. I mean, they had everything. They have like 3 or 4 amazing singers. You got the best horn section in the business, and you got, at this point, the best rhythm section. Is you got Terry Kath on guitar, you got Peter Cetera on the bass, Robert Lamb on keys, and then Danny Seraphine on drums. They just gel, those guys, and they played live constantly at this point. So they're constantly listening to each other and constantly getting better and better. And that's really evidenced on this album, Chicago 3, and then the Carnegie Hall especially. I mean, this band is just amazing. Like, the stuff that they were able to play is crazy. I like, Chicago is a very popular band, and sometimes they get a lot of flack because they totally went towards the super hit factory machine later on in their career.
But that wasn't here. They weren't.
No, that's not here. They wrote hits. Like, this has Make Me Smile and 25 or 64, but those are genuinely excellent songs.
Those are
like,
great
they have
songs. Yeah.
Also the songwriting chops. Like, who's writing songs like this? Like, you have, you could argue there's a prog aspect to this too, because you have songs like Poem from the People and In the Country, which are like mini epics, but they're like 3.5 to 5 minutes long, and you go through the gamut of emotions and musical things. It's so great.
We had a question from Jocko about Chicago. I've been meaning to give Chicago a serious chance. Mike, you just sold me. Do I start with Chicago 3?
I would say start with this one and then Chicago 3 and 1. The first album is called Chicago Transit Authority.
Right. And then they got sued by they got threatened with a lawsuit by the actual CTA.
So they changed their name to Chicago.
Right. Because the state of Chicago couldn't threaten them with a lawsuit, I guess.
Yeah, I guess not.
Or I'm sorry, the city of Chicago could not.
The city of Chicago, yes.
But yeah, I'm sorry, I interrupted you, but I thought that was a good question.
That's a great question. Yeah. I think I probably wasn't 1 or 2 mics, but I think they were all in the same room together when they recorded. I mean, I could be wrong, but from what I understand, they recorded it within the same room, and it was just like a couple takes.
Well, I'll give my impressions. Because she's asking, so if Chicago recorded on 1 to 2 mics, how did they have quad versions? I think the mixes are rather discreet. And that comes from listening to the Atmos mix, which is the one. See, what's interesting about this is that the original Steven Wilson mix of this came out like, how long has it been now?
It's like 2016 or something.
Yeah.
2017 maybe?
Yeah, like 8 or 9 years ago. And it was kind of an anomaly at the time because there was no 5.1 mix issued. It was just stereo, and
it was only a stereo mix. Yeah.
No explanation given. And I always kind of felt like that was a missing piece in the Wilson 5.1, surround mix and remix canon. It's like, where's the multi-channel mix of Chicago 2? Well, it finally came out this year, and this is from Rhino Records, and I believe this is part of their high fidelity pure audio, but it's also part of their Quadio imprint in a way, and I don't know if that's quite the right word, but because this does include a vintage Quadio mix with it. So you get the Quadio mix, you get the 2003-ish 5.1 mix, and you also get Wilson's Dolby Atmos mix. And talking about the way it was recorded, like, I can hear the drums traveling. Like, the drums are mostly like toms and stuff are in the height speakers, and they just seem to be like, and it's incredible. I'm just not used to hearing that amount of fidelity out of this album. And you do feel like the horns are positioned in the back. Now, sometimes you definitely get higher brass like trumpets in the fronts and height speakers, and the lower brass like the trombones are all the way in the back. So I do think that the it was probably like, bass probably would have been direct into the board. They probably mic'd up the guitar amp or did it through an overdub. And they probably covered the horn section with between 2 and 4 mics alone. But that's just my guesswork. I don't know, and I do wish that there was more information.
Yeah, I truthfully don't really know. I had like that's like hear tell growing up with Chicago
Yeah.
knowledge, which may not be totally accurate. I know when they later albums they started to separate and do like I think it's Chicago 5 or 6 they started recording at Caribou Studios and they did a couple albums there, like the famous one in the Rockies. And
Mhm.
that is like, all separate. I think 5 was the first one there, then 6 is famously recorded there, and 7 and 8 as well. But yeah, I mean that's the first run of albums is really like essential, like 1 through 11, and then Terry Kath sadly dies, and then
Yeah.
the band is really never the same. Although they do have, I think, there is some music of merit later on, like Chicago 16 and 17 have some good stuff on there. The Christmas albums are great if you're into Christmas music. And they have like a couple of sleeper later stuff. The recording quality is kind of not so great, but there's some good stuff here and there.
Well, that I would agree with that. This album especially was never high fidelity.
No, it
Um,
wasn't. Like my
and
records, you can hear it's like fairly muffled. Like
yep.
the music is great, but it's still like it's pretty muffled and like shows its age. You
And I
know?
think that is still here. Like I don't think Wilson changed the character of it much at all,
No.
but what he did do is add dynamics, or I guess reveal the dynamics, and a lot of individual instrument clarity. Like especially like there's 3 suites on this, and we'll talk about that a little bit. But that AM morning and PM morning, that little suite with all the little orchestral stuff is evenly spread around the room, and it feels like you're sitting within this album. It's
Yeah, the
totally
remix is
immersive.
amazing. Yeah. And
And
the
like,
Memories of Love.
yeah, Memories of Love, that's another great song. But I wanted to point out, because I love the It Better End Soon suite.
Yeah.
That's great. But Ballet for a Girl in Buchanan is about Buchanan Upshur, which is located in my home state of West Virginia. And there's a pair of tracks here, Anxiety's Moment and West Virginia Fantasies, that absolutely sound like Frank Zappa.
Yeah,
To me.
absolutely. That's like this suite is probably like you could argue is a quintessential Chicago piece is
Yeah,
the ballet, and it's James Pankow wrote that thing, and it's brilliant.
yeah.
It's got everything. It's got 2 really beautiful like pop songs, and then some of the best instrumental music you'll hear.
And it's like
Period.
mixed with Stravinsky. Like there's
Yeah.
Stravinsky influence throughout. At one point, they launch into Help I'm a Rock.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like it's Help I'm a Rock, like the boom 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 boom.
Da,
And
da,
yeah,
da, da, da. Yeah.
like there's like this horn part going over top of it. But this is a great album, and I'm hoping, because I had Mike record a little segment for a review. I'm hoping to
Yes.
review this week. I just like to learn a little bit more about it, because there's basically no liner notes with this, so it doesn't really talk about how it was recorded or what they were going
Yeah,
for.
there's like minimal liner notes I think in the stereo disc also.
It's
I'll have
just
to
from
I'll have to
Wilson
send
talking
you.
about
Yeah,
his approach and stuff, which is helpful, but
it's really helpful. I think it's one of his best mixes
it is.
also.
Well, that's the other thing I want to mention, is that I would put Wilson's mix of this in the same category as his mix of Aqualung, because
Yeah.
both of these are so transformative that they individually justify the existence of all Wilson mixes, in my opinion. Because sometimes he doesn't add a whole lot. You know what I mean? Like he might add clarity, dynamics, whatever, punch to a mix. But, in some cases, like say Songs from the Wood, it already sounded pretty good. So it's
Yeah.
like, I'm not sure if he's quote unquote necessary, but he revitalized this album much in the same way that he revitalized Aqualung. And it sounds like a new record to me. Like I can just turn this up. I had this thing like peel and paint yesterday, and I didn't hear any distortion or anything. It just all sounded like great music. But Big Eyed Bean Vision says, and he's responding to Jocko's question about where to start with Chicago. Start with the first one. I agree with that, except that sometimes like the whole Terry Kath suite where he's trying to be a little too Jimi Hendrix like. Sometimes that doesn't work so well for me. But there is a lot of great music on the first Chicago Transit Authority album.
There is also like Terry's soloing in Poem 58 is like jaw dropping. Like Terry Kath, I think, was the best rock guitar player that isn't Frank Zappa.
Wow.
Like without question. Like there's no, I like, for me, there's no question. Like if you listen to, I have the Carnegie Hall box set, which we should definitely talk about at some point because of how transformatively great the sound is now. But I mean, he has everything. It's just soloing from another planet. He's like, rhythmic comping is amazing. Like he elevates like every note of music in that whole entire thing that band did. It's just, unbelievable guitar playing. Like really and truly. And like Jimi Hendrix is quoted saying to Chicago when he saw them for the first time, he said, "Your guitar player is better than I am."
We said the same thing about King Crimson.
Also that, yeah. Like, Jimmy was doing that feedback stuff, but Terry Kath was doing it around the same time or even earlier. Like Chicago 1 came out before the Isle of Wight festival and the
interesting.
Woodstock and all that jazz. It's from
I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's earlier. It's super
like
neat.
freeform guitar solo.
Freeform guitar, yeah.
Yeah. I guess I should give that another listen one of these days.
Yeah, it's definitely worth the spin. I think the Poem 58 is a little better only because it's like straight up jazz playing. It's just guitar, bass, and drums, and then there's like a really cool song at the end of it.
Yeah.
But it's ripping. And the first one, I think is also potentially a good starting point too, because I just said the 2 and 3 because those are the ones I heard first when I was younger. But Chicago 1 is like, it starts off with like, banger after banger. You have introduction, which is like the thesis statement for the band. Then you get, does anybody really know what time it is? Questions 67 to 68, beginnings. It's like, iconic song after iconic song. Yeah. It's like, how do these guys write these songs like just right out of the gate? Like, some of the best music that popular music has ever seen. And it's just right away with these guys.
Yeah.
How do you do that?
And we should take a moment before you go. I do want to answer Terry's question about the books, but we should take a moment before you go. And you and I have discussed before the similarities between Magma's first album and Chicago Transit Authority, which I think is fascinating because they both kind of start with that thesis statement. Magma starts with Kobai, and with Chicago Transit Authority, you get introduction, which is like, this is what we're going to do. Well, sit back and we're going to work our magic on you,
And they even say it in the lyrics, the introduction, like, sit back and let us groove and let us play for you. Boom. Yeah. That's interesting. Like, we were also talking about something. Oh, it was the first Gentle Giant album. There's some moments on there that remind me of Magma's first album also.
Mm-hmm.
They're like,
Alucard.
yeah, that's it. They're like, somewhat of a mission statement kind of thing, but also a little bit like, unlike Chicago 1, the first Magma and the first Gentle Giant to me are little oddballs in their discographies. They're the first thing and have a mission statement quality, but they're also really weird for the bands themselves, because Magma really, the second album I love, it's great, but they really started becoming what Magma was with Mechanic Destructive Commando.
Yes.
And Gentle Giant with, Three Friends a couple albums later. They're interesting albums that they're so different.
I guess 21st Century Schizoid Man is also a thesis or mission statement then. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say that too.
Yep. That was the song that made me love prog, I think. I mean, I was into Tull, I was into Rush, Pink Floyd, Frank Zappa, but when I heard 21st Century Schizoid Man, I became a prog fan.
Yeah, totally. All the Crimson sold me for sure. Like I heard Yes beforehand, but I think that kind of sealed the deal.
Okay, so Terry Walker says Jim Christopoulos' VDGG book, The Book, was a terrific read. Can you guys recommend any good Tull, Rush, Genesis, King Crimson, etc. books? Found Geddy's book a little disappointing. Why is that? I loved Geddy's book.
Excuse me, I still have to read it. I have let me get an answer to the question here.
It's like focus, questions, answers, questions.
Questions. I have so much stuff all over my apartment.
Hey, by the way, Big Eyed Bean says Sid Smith's In the Court of King Crimson book is fantastic. That's the one I'd recommend for King Crimson.
That's what I was going to pull out. I have yet to read the whole thing. Also, like anytime you get a Crimson release, check the liner notes because Sid Smith is a terrific writer and is probably the authority for King Crimson.
Yes, I need to read it too.
That is not Robert Fripp, but
and they're saying that book is not going to be reprinted. So if you want it, you should grab it.
That's part of why I bought it when I did. I have yet to read it. I am like a reading monster, but I am also a reading monster who has a to read pile that's gargantuan. So I have not gotten to this yet. Oh, but it's awesome. Yeah, this book is amazing though. I have thumbed through it and there's some really great stuff. It goes through the entire history of the band from, inception to 2019. And it was written in 2019, I believe. So you get literally everything Crimson, which is great. This is like the resource to have.
And they update it every couple of years too.
Yes, they do.
When there's more history. So Terry Walker, real quick about the Getty book. My inner nerd wanted more insight into the songs themselves and the recording process. I guess the book wasn't aimed at nerds. No, it's a book about Geddy Lee's life. And so it's like a very personalized history, but like he talks about making the Rush records. Like the chapter on Power Windows is awesome. I learned so much about Power Windows from his book because Geddy loves that record, and so do we.
Oh, there's a few.
But the only other really Rush book I've read is Contents Under Pressure by Martin Popoff, and that's more of like a tour chronology, but it also does talk about the making of the individual albums. And I also recommend it because you do hear from Alex Lifeson and Neil Peart as well. So yeah, I mean, that might be a good one for you. Yeah, there's also, and this is probably not easy to find, but Team Rock, the publisher who puts out Classic Rock Presents Prague and Classic Rock Magazine, did a Clockwork Angels issue that covers the band's entire career. And that is worth, if you can find it, that's worth watching or worth reading. Also, let's see, we did talk about King Crimson books.
I got another one too. We were talking about XTC. This
book here, that's a good one.
Complicated Game. This is a great book, and it's also signed by Andy. That's just really cool.
That's awesome.
But yeah, he talks about not every XTC song, but he does highlight a fair chunk of the catalog. That's the word. But he goes in depth about the song that he highlights, plus stuff around that era and how things are written and recorded, and that's really tremendous. I also, to pair with this, would strongly recommend the Fuzzy Warbles editions, the compilation albums that Andy released. They've been released a couple times actually, but they're all demo recordings, like Andy's home demos, and it's ranging from XTC song demos to unreleased songs to fully fledged recordings of stuff that were singles. It's like really awesome to get like a feel for Andy as a songwriter. And I think a lot of the music on those sets is genuinely fantastic, like as good or better than XTC full on material. Like I would strongly recommend doing that. It's a good pairing for this book too, because you can listen to some, like, it's like you get a really good insight into the songwriting process, but also hear some tremendous songs. Some of the demos are even better than, in some cases better than the full songs. Interesting the choices they make to make it go from demo to the thing.
I think, let's see, there's a Tall book. It might be a little bit out of dated. I actually think that probably the best written resource of Jethro Tull are the box sets. Because you get like 80 pages each on every era. There's also the Minstrels in the Gallery book. It's a little out of date, but that's a Dave Rees book. But Dave Rees and Martin Webb both continue to run the A New Day magazine. And Martin Webby's doing the box sets, and Dave Rees did the official biography. So, you can't go wrong with either one of those. There is a Genesis book that I would like to get. Is it called In the Beginning?
I don't know, to be honest. I don't know anything about books on Genesis, to be quite honest.
And I think there's like a Rutherford biography and maybe
Phil Collins, but yeah, I know there's a Phil Collins biography that came out a couple of years ago.
Revelations.
No
Jocko's
offense.
right. It's called Revelations. That's
Revelations,
the
that's it.
Genesis book. Yeah, I need to get that. I'm actually a little bit addicted at the moment to Kindle books because even though they're not physical media, and obviously I prefer physical media if possible, but you can get Nick Mason's book for $2 on Kindle right now. Like, you'd be
Wow.
stupid not to. I mean, I would be stupid not to do that, in my opinion, even if I don't read it right away. It's like $2. Yeah,
It's
I'll
probably a
do that.
good read too.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, I mean, I haven't gotten around to it yet, but Nick's the funny one. And he's got all the great stories. And somebody mentioned Marcus O'Dare's
Oh.
different every time. That's a Robert Wyatt biography. And I do have that.
Oh, that's cool.
I have a Kindle version of it. Let's see. Terry says, I felt like Getty kind of skimmed over the last few albums. Thanks for those other recommendations, though, guys. You're very welcome.
Yeah, of
And you're
course.
right. Getty did. Basically, like, you get a lot of information about the recording of the first album, especially, which is great. And it seems like, though, post Power Windows and Hold Your Fire, he just kind of condenses everything down. And then the last third of the book is a trauma dump. And it is difficult. It is
Wow.
difficult to read, but I mean, it's beautiful. It's like his outlook on life, despite, being a survivor, basically, is it's wonderful to read, but be ready. The last third of the Getty book is not
Yeah,
necessarily easy to read.
that's on my to read pile down here. I yeah, there's a ton of good like jazz books out there too, like, but that's a little off topic, but I have like the Miles Davis biography, and there's like really good books on Jaco Pastorius and Michael Brecker out there that I've read recently. The Elton John book is actually really good also, the one that he wrote. He's a very good writer. I was pretty surprised to note also. I'm a big Elton John fan also. But his book is fantastic. He's another guy it's amazing that he's alive and doing as well as he did, because he had a like really bad cocaine problem for a very long
Wow.
time. Yeah, like he didn't start using drugs or anything like that until like 75 or 76, and then it was like up until like the 90s.
Wow.
But he completely turned his life around, and now he's
Pressures of touring and being an artist at that stature, it's a wonder that more people don't succumb to addictions than have.
it's crazy.
Yeah.
Like stadium level concerts for 40 years or something crazy. Like,
Yeah.
that's
And having to be
insanity.
that guy, the guy that's on the record every night,
Yep.
that's a lot. That's a lot of pressure. A lot of it's like just
Yeah.
psychological, but it's a lot of pressure. Jocko says Mike Rutherford's autobiography is pretty funny, and then there's a Steve Hackett one. He says he bought, but he hasn't read yet. One more thing, I think we might, you wanted to sign off, I think 20 minutes ago.
That's okay.
But
Yeah.
we might both sign off at the same time. But I wanted to mention Steely Dan. Just do a brief mention of this one, because this is one of my favorite albums ever made. And it's like basically every audiophile's tailor-made favorite album, because it's just produced immaculately. But the
it's amazing.
songwriting is incredible on it.
Yeah.
And you have people like Wayne Shorter coming up and blowing on the title track.
Steve Gadd too.
Yep. But I wanted to mention, because I know that I do have some Steely Dan fans in my subscribers, but I think next month we are getting the Analog Productions, or whatever it's called, version of the Royal Scam, which I do intend to pick up, because that's my favorite.
That's my favorite too.
Yeah, it's so good. But I did get a chance to hear this one again. It's always a pleasure.
Yeah, Home at Last is my favorite one on that album. That's a really special song for me.
Ooh, I wanted to highlight this one. I don't know if Big Eye Bean Vision saw what was in my hand here. But we can jump back to Steely in a moment, because I know you're not familiar with Roland Kirk, right?
I am familiar. I just haven't really listened to too much. It's just one of those things.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of music out there, and it's like,
I listen to a lot of jazz, but for whatever reason, Roland Kirk albums have not been heavy in my rotation. I listened to some with my buddy in high school, but that's about it. I never owned an album, never like really took a deep dive.
I think I would like to read that book, Bright Moments. because Roland Kirk, I mean, our main topic of discussion is progressive rock, obviously. So like everything is going to be kind of framed by that, at least from my perspective. But in talking about Roland Kirk, he is a towering influence over many of our favorite artists, individual musicians from Ian Anderson, David Jackson, Vandergraaf Generator. I think the dude who plays flute for Chicago even kind of sounds like Roland Kirk.
Yeah, Parasitor definitely. It's Walter Parasitor.
Okay.
Yeah, he definitely listened to Roland Kirk.
And Napoleon Murphy Brock. I can hear his influence over, when Napoleon's doing that the Dupree's Paradise stuff.
Yeah.
You can hear Roland Kirk over that. Anytime, you hear somebody using multiphonics, which is when you play a note and you sing underneath of it, and you kind of have that growl sound on flute, it's this guy. This guy was a one-man saxophone horn section. And it's like common. I wonder if there's a picture in here. This performance, which I think just came out, I don't know if it's ever been available before, but he's got these multiple horns. Here's a good photo here. He's got these multiple horns that he's playing around his neck, and the man was blind. So like you see him, in the middle of a performance, he'll be grabbing for a horn and sticking it in his mouth and just going for it. But like they do a Charlie Mingus song, Better Get It in Your Soul. And he's playing the and then he'll drop the three horns and he'll grab the tenor and he'll blow the solo. It's like, oh my God, how does he do this? And then he's got this instrument. It's called like a stritch or something like that. But this is kind of going back to the vacuum cleaner thing. It's like a cross between a soprano saxophone and a vacuum cleaner. But what amazes me is that despite all of Roland's idiosyncratic homemade instruments and nose flute, that's another thing. He'll play flute with his nose. All those things he does, it all results in beautiful music. That's just what amazes me about him, is that if I close my eyes and I weren't watching, it would just be beautiful music. I wouldn't necessarily be hung up on, he was, I think at the time people considered him, dismissed him as being gimmicky. But I don't agree with that at all, because it's like everything he did was in service of, the music. And you think about it, like circular breathing, that's the technique where you store wind in your cheeks. As you can see on the back here.
Yeah.
You can see that. And you're inhaling and you're exhaling at the same time. So there's a continuous airflow. And that's how he was able to power three saxophones at one time. And then he'd switch to just the one sax and he'd blow with full force. And it was like a freight train. It's just incredible power that this man had. And yeah, I agree with what Big Eyes says. Rashawn rules. This is one of the greats, I think. And it's a real shame, I think, that more people don't know who he is today. I watched this video last night and I couldn't believe what I was seeing. This is called Domino, live at Radio Bremen TV Studios, 1963. Those German engineers from the 60s were the best of the best. So this set, it looks fantastic despite being a video or a DVD. It looks fantastic. It's been restored really well, but the sound quality is immaculate. And it just sounds great. It's a great performance too. I want to say hello to Zach Nathanson.
Hey, Zach.
From the old Deep Cuts days. It's good to hear from you, man.
Yeah.
I remember Person. They were another like Black Sabbath with flute type band, much in the same way that Blood Ceremony is. Yeah, cool, man. Good to see you. Okay, yeah, Terry Walker says, I know very little about Steely Dan. Why the lack of multi-channel versions of their albums? Are the masters missing? That's a question that Jocko, I think, would be better equipped to answer. However, there's quad versions of some of the early ones, like Can't Buy a Thrill. I want to say Countdown to Ecstasy may have a quad. And then there's Gaucho. Gaucho has a 5.1 mix. And that's the one Steely record that I still haven't heard. I should
Oh,
hear it.
really?
Yeah, I should hear that.
Gaucho's, like, from a production standpoint, Gaucho sounds amazing.
Yeah.
I think Gaucho's a fascinating album. It's not my favorite Steely Dan album, but there's a few things on there that are really amazing. Like the song Glamour Profession is one of the best deep cuts in the whole catalog, and the title track is magic. And also you have a Jeff Porcaro playing drums on the title track, who will
Oh, right.
go on and a year later to play with like more stuff with Toto and
Right.
reinvent the Bernard Purdy shuffle with Rosanna. But it's just great to hear that. And like Gaucho has some really great like power keyboard chords that are just magic. It's a great album. You should hear it. It definitely
I
may be the most dated one because some of it has like a late 70s disco thing, and Walter Becker was really like his drug problem was really bad apparently at this point, but it is a great album. I
well,
don't know anything about the multi-channel.
I should grab that if I can get a hold of it. Jocko says, this is to answer Terry's question. Some of the multi-tracks are missing. Not sure of the amount, but I do know that on Asia, the multis for Black Cow and the title cut are lost. Other stuff too, but not sure. See, that's enough to me to like cancel the multi-track mixing project for Asia, because those are two of the most important tracks. Black Cow and Asia. Like if you don't have those, don't do it. And we'll see how this AI stuff pans out with Living in the Past, if it's worth it, because some of the Pentio upmixes that Steven Wilson did were actually rather excellent. Like the Devil's Triangle off of In the Wake of Poseidon, and Boys in the Band off of Octopus, the Gentle Giant album. Those sounded really good. So we'll see how that pans out. But at the moment, I don't see me falling in love with an AI upmix. But who knows? I'm my ears are open. I'm open to being impressed. But I did want to point out that the Nightfly, which I do have a copy of that over there, the Nightfly has an excellent SACD. It's like a Japanese thing. It's a CD with an SACD multi-channel layer, and that is one of the top multi-channel discs. So to answer what Terry said, if you're looking for some multi-channel Steely Dan stuff, I recommend Donald Fagen's album, The Nightfly, if you can get a hold of it. It's not very cheap, but if you can, do it. Let's see. This is a good comment. Zach Nathanson, I would love to see Steven Wilson tackle the early Pink Floyd albums. I wasn't happy of the 2016 remix of Obscured by Clouds and Live at Pompeii from the early years box set. I know Steven wants to do that stuff. And Mike is the opportunist, is grabbing a copy of Sausage Full of Secrets.
We're on the same page here. I would agree with you with the Obscured by Clouds mix. I didn't really like it so much. I have an old vinyl, thankfully, that sounds stupendous. So I was like, this new mix isn't so great. But I've never owned this album, this early Floyd album, and I love this album. So I happened to buy it a week and a half ago. It's the new mix. I think it sounds great. This one sounds great.
Is it a new mix or is it a new master?
Maybe it's just a new master, but it's mastered by James Guthrie, Joe Plant, and Bernie Grundman.
Oh, you can't go wrong with Grundman.
To my ears, it sounds good. I also have never owned a copy of this album before. As much as I've loved it, I've only had a burned CD from when I was in high school. This is actually one of my favorite Floyd records, believe it or not.
I actually do have that album. I just remembered. I hope I still have. I have A Nice Pair, which I can't show the cover of that. I'll get demonetized for sure. But A Nice Pair was a reissue of Piper at the Gates of Dawn with A Saucer Full of Secrets.
With this, right? Yeah.
Yep. But I think that there's some stuff that was swapped out. They used some Umaguma versions for some songs, like live versions, which is interesting. But
that is interesting.
But yeah, that's a good Pink Floyd album. Like Set the Controls for the Heart of the Sun is a classic.
Yeah, the Let There Be More Light is an awesome opening song, and Remember a Day. I like Corporal Clegg too.
I do too.
A song that some people don't like. The only song I don't like on here is Seesaw. I think Seesaw is kind of a forgettable song.
Didn't the Dukes kind of spoof Corporal Clegg with You're a Good Man, Albert Brown?
I think a little bit, yeah. And the title track is amazing also. It's maybe the quintessential psychedelic freakout that that and Interstellar Overdrive are like the two big ones, and they're both by the same band.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the only Floyd album that has two guitar players. in the credits. It's Syd Barrett
Yeah,
and
Sid's
David
on.
Gilmour.
He's on Jug Band
Yep.
Blues. Sid's on Jug Band. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree with Zach. I would love to see like Obscured by Clouds. I'd love to see Adam Hart Mother get a
Adam
Wilson
Hart Mother would be a great one to
mix.
hear Wilson do.
Umaguma, like the live stuff would be great.
Yeah, I
Now
really like
Zach,
Umaguma.
did you hear the Wilson mix of Live in Pompeii, and what did you think? You'll have to let us know.
I got to get that too.
Zach says, I had the pleasure of interviewing Derek Schulman a few weeks ago. He was awesome to talk to. That's awesome,
so
man.
cool.
I'm
That's
glad
so
to hear
cool.
that. Jocko says, Seesaw was listed as the most boring song I've ever heard, bar 2, on the studio log. So Floyd may share your opinion, Mike.
That's awesome. I mean, it is like, you get Saucerful, and then you get this song. It's like, it enters your brain, and then it leaves right away. Like, huh, all right, whatever. And then Jug Band Blues is great.
So yeah, Vincent says, Zachary, you need to be a moderator, post links. Hey, Zach, why don't you message me that link on Facebook, and I will open my Facebook account just for this. And if you send it to me on Facebook, I'll drop it in the chat. All right.
Yeah.
Oh, is there anything else we want to talk about here? How about you folks? You guys have any questions for us?
I have something I wanted to shout out. This
All right.
So like my, prog is like my bread and butter, I guess, prog and jazz. But like my fear now is like my musical listening is like constantly all over the map. Like my wife and I listened to a lot of Green Day this weekend when we were traveling because that stuff like pop punk is close to our hearts from growing up.
Yeah. Well, American Idiot is not a bad album at all.
American Idiot's great, yeah. And like Nimrod and American Idiot and Warning are like the 3 Green Day albums that are for me are terrific. I wanted to shout out what is my favorite discovery of the year so far. I found them by accident after like listening to Opeth. I like, sometimes like streaming will do a shuffle of stuff that's like similar. You might like that. And sometimes that is a good way to discover music. And I found this band. They're called Ne Obliviscaris. I don't know if you can see the artwork. This is the most recent album called Exul. They're like an extreme metal symphonic group that uses a lot of violin. I absolutely love this music. It's amazing. It's really like from a compositional standpoint. It's really impressive music. They do a lot like this. So there's like clean singing and harsh vocals in a lot of this music, but sometimes they use them at the same time. And it's like has this really cool choir effect. I don't know if you can see the cover a little better with the booklet. This is from 2023, this album, but it's really stupendous music. And I like urge anyone who wants to hear something that's like, it's adventurous, but it's also really pretty and like has a lot of heart, and it's kind of epic music also, to really check this band out. This album and the album Citadel, I think, are really special records. I like been like visiting stuff a lot in the car and also here at home too. And it's just so impressive. Yeah. See, Terry's got it. I love them. Like they're from Australia too, which is cool. I think
the
their
Land of the
first album
Gizzard.
the Land of the Gizzard, which is another band that we both really like. But yeah, I would urge anyone to check this stuff out. This stuff is great. Again, the lights in my apartment are horrendous for showing stuff, but that's okay. Yeah, go check them out if you haven't. They're amazing.
See, like Mike, I have a listening. Mike's got a reading list, and I have a reading list too. But my listening list and film list is like, my friend JB Lee did a comic one time where it was basically just a bunch of records, and it was his hand reaching out of the pile of records, like "Help me!" And that's where I am. But Mike, take over for just a second. I want to show you something that I got this week.
Yeah, that's like, this is just amazing stuff. Their first album was from 2012. It's called Song of I, and that one is also great. But I think that one is the most like Opeth-esque or Opeth adjacent of all of their albums. They have 4, and like the bass playing reminds me a lot of the first bass player in Opeth. Like I think his name is Johan Lafara. He's was fretless and open bass kind of playing, really jazz influence. And the bass player in this band is the same kind of thing, and it really works. Also, I was very impressed with the soloing in this band. Like the guitar and violin playing, they're really good players. Like they are excellent soloists.
Yeah,
which is not always the thing in some metal music, but they are
I've
great
started
soloists.
I've started to get more into metal through you and Opeth. And I need to get back into them because I got a whole slew of Opeth stuff.
Yeah, Opeth
Yeah.
is amazing for me. Yeah, I know.
String
It
metal
works so
violins.
well. Like there's a few bands out there that use saxophone too, and it also really works. And I wish more bands would do this kind of thing. Like it's just a nice like texture with like, really like crunchy riffs or like even just like a black metal kind of atmosphere. Like it works really well. It's
And
that pretty quality.
and talking about listening lists, do you guys know a band from Kentucky called Oot Greet? I think you saw them, right?
I saw them with you. Yeah,
Yeah,
at Prague Day.
Prague Day.
They're
Well,
awesome. Yeah.
they released their new album, and it's called Later Than You Think, and then it has disc 2, Better Late Than Never. And I believe that the story here is that these are 2 EPs. These are 2 separate EPs that have been stuck together. But I have not had a chance to hear this yet, but I'm so excited because they sent me their entire back catalog.
That's awesome.
And like I really want to take the time to explore this stuff because this album for me is like a
I love
modern
that album.
classic. This is a modern
Yeah.
classic, and we saw them 10 years ago supporting this album.
Yeah.
And this is like Canterbury music, what they call like a Mara Canterbury, like the Muffins. It's like kind of like that. But there's influence from like a lot of European folk music too. And they have a bassoon in the band, which any band with a bassoon is worth checking out.
Yeah, 100%.
But this album is really solid, and I loved it when it came out, and we played it on the radio show all the
Oh, yeah,
time.
we played a lot. That album, and I have that one also.
Radical
Both are
Symmetry.
great. Yep.
Yep, this is another really good one. What's the one? Sort of Damocles is a great track. But yeah, Steve Roberts is a great guy. He's kind of followed me for a while, and we've kind of had an interest in each other's projects and careers. But Joey Conroy is another like a great bass player and stuff. But yeah, if you like this kind of stuff, like Canterbury, jazz with a little bit
Oh,
of like
yeah.
warped Americana on top of it. They're a bit similar to Jack of the Clock in a way, which is kind of weird that we both saw them at the same time. But yeah, I'm glad to have these guys back in my collection, and I wish that I would have had the chance to hear some of this, but maybe by next week I will and be able to talk about it a little bit. Yeah, so I'll just talk briefly before we sign off here, because we still have a few people here hanging out in the chat. That next week, I have a question to answer. Sorry, I missed this. How do you pronounce that username again?
Laurasiana. Like it's
Laurasiana.
Laurasia and Gondwana were the two continents on Earth during I think the Cretaceous period, like the end of the last era of the dinosaur era. Gondwana is also used for some earlier Earth stuff. Also, I'm a paleo nerd, so there you go. The biologist / paleontologist inside me comes out once in a while. So there you go. But anyway.
Yeah, she says, I bought the DVD of Fagen's Morph the Cat, which sounds great, although it isn't his best album by any means. Did Rhino release the Steely Dan quad versions? Is that where I'd get it? I don't believe so. I should have checked on this, but I'm going to look it up here. Analog Productions, Acoustic Sounds label, does a lot of these SACD layered things, because SACD is kind of a niche format that I don't think really anybody else releases anymore, but I kind of love it. But I want to say that Gaucho is the only one that's had a 5.1 and I don't think any of the quad mixes have been released on CD, and Jocko just kind of supported that. He says the quad versions have been released digitally, unfortunately. That's what I thought too, but you can get the 5.1 mix of Gaucho. And secondhand, let me grab that disc real quick. But Go ahead, Mike. We got dead air.
Dead air. What's that? Yeah, I don't know anything about the Steely Dan multi-channel mixes. Oh,
this is
that's
the
sick.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you can find it,
also great. Yeah.
This is from 2002. So, it's been out a little while and it's not really affordable. But if you're willing to pay like $60 for a single album, which sometimes I am, it depends on the album, it's worth it.
That might be the one.
Speaking of paying $60 for a single album, have you folks looked into the new Atmos mix of Avalon yet by Roxy Music? Because a UK-based label, Super Deluxe Edition, put out a website exclusive version of Avalon, and I absolutely adore Avalon. It's one of my favorite albums of all time, but after you throw on the shipping costs and everything, it takes like a $30 Blu-ray up to 60. And so I'm going back and forth on that. So if any of you have heard it and say I absolutely need it, I'll consider it. But and the other thing is like, FOMO is, the fear of missing out. That's like a huge thing driving people to buy physical media now. And I'm not sure how I feel about that. Making things purposefully scarce is kind of irritating.
Yeah.
And it kind of takes a lot of the fun out of it for me. Like Avalon, I feel like would make a perfect like $20 standalone Blu-ray mix. And the other kind of sticking point is that Always Unknowing, the extra track, the B-side, is not included. So it's like you're paying so much money for something that has less content than a version released 20 years ago did. And from what I understand, it was the band's decision not to include Always Unknowing, which is even more frustrating. So yeah, I'm thinking about it. I do love that album. I'd probably listen to it a lot. But it needs a stateside reissue. I don't like all this exclusivity stuff. Artist store exclusive. It just drives me nuts.
Yeah, it's whack.
SACD is still popular for European classical music labels. Okay. I dig. I like SACD. Some people say that the extra bit rates or whatever are actually above the level of what a human being can hear. But I have a system that's pretty good. And I'm playing off of a 4K player through a 8K cable. So I can kind of hear the difference between a CD layer and an SACD layer, especially when they apply extra mastering to the CD layer. That definitely makes a huge difference. But I'm glad that the SACD still has some hold in like classical markets, because I'd like to hear some of that stuff, I think. Jocko says they definitely should be re-released. They have tons of differences, extra guitar phrases, some different vocal takes. Fun. Yeah, I mean, I think that Steely Dan and multi-channel is a lot of untapped potential there. And even if they did just do a release like a Quadio, like Rhino's Quadio series, I think is phenomenal, where they take vintage quad mixes and put them back out. Like they just did Tre Hombre. And that's a great album. And Vincent Whitehead mentions Life in Surround. Yeah, I watch him. He's great. Life in Surround channel did a review of the new Avalon Blu-ray. He recommends it wholeheartedly. Yeah, that's why I want it. It's because, if Mike says get it. And I mentioned him earlier, Mike, and I'm not talking about you, Mike.
The other one. Yeah.
He actually sold me this copy of Tales from Topographic Oceans that I spoke about earlier. So he's a good guy. And I watch him all the time, but yeah, he's not making it any easier. I think I said that, if you guys watch The Simpsons, it's like the good Homer and the evil Homer are having an argument, like buy it. No, don't buy it. Buy it.
Yeah.
All right, guys.
Yeah.
So I think we're going to get wrapped up here. Mike, you might have some plans later today. I mean,
yes.
I might do some stuff too, hang out with the family or whatever, hang out with the cat. I'm surprised he didn't bug. Last week, the cat joined me, but he's off camera right now.
He's busy.
He's busy. He's busy. He's in the land of Nod, but visiting the land of Nod. But so next week we are going to meet at the same time, which is 12 Eastern time, noon Eastern time. But we are going to meet on Sunday instead of Monday. And my guests are going to be Dave Newhouse, saxophonist, keyboardist, writer. He's an author. And he's also band leader for the Muffins, US based, as I said, Canterbury band that I did a wonderful box set for. I'm not saying it's wonderful for my involvement, but it's wonderful just the sheer amount of content that you get with it. But also Jerry King, bass player and composer in his own right for the band Cloud Over Jupiter, will be there, as will Eric Kearns. Eric Kearns is a brilliant graphic designer. He's done all of the graphic design work on my albums, like the Coloratura albums, and he's also done a lot of Dave and Jerry's stuff. But it'll be the first time we're all kind of together in the same space, even though we've worked on multitude of different projects over the years in different combinations. And I'm sure that the Moon X project, the Rocket Ship to the Moon album that just came out on vinyl, I'm sure that that's going to feature a lot in our conversation. But what I've done is I've asked my 3 guests to give me their top 5 albums, and I've compiled a listening list based on their choices. And so we're going to talk about like a specific set of things that everybody will be kind of familiar with. But yeah, there will be once again a link that you can join ahead of time, so you'll be notified when we go on live. And if you folks who are viewing and commenting, if you are interested in that, definitely do check it out. We'd love to have you drop by and comment. Big Eye Bean Vision says Dave is also a painter, and he's a great one too. He's kind of like turning into Captain Beefheart or David Lynch a little bit, like a little bit of everything. All right, Mike. Well, you got anything else to add before we send the folks off?
No, thanks for hanging, everybody. We'll do it again soon. It's fun. Yeah, next week sounds awesome. Have to tune in for that too.
Yeah. Well, it's been fun, guys, and thanks for joining the conversation, and we'll talk soon. The archive will be up, so if you missed any of this, you can check it out. But it'll be up almost immediately. But thanks for checking it out. Thanks again, Mike.
Bye, everybody. Yeah.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.